Something in our world refuses to be explained. Not the legends we've reshaped over time, nor the stories blurred by imagination, but events carved into reality, marked by evidence, yet still impossibly unsolved. These are the moments that challenge logic, unsettle certainty, and leave even the most rational minds with a quiet, lingering doubt. Tonight, we step into that space between the known and the unknowable, a place where vanished travelers seem to disappear between one breath and the next, where signals echo from nowhere, photographs show what shouldn't be there, and patterns repeat across centuries with no clear source. Why do some mysteries endure long after every lead has faded? What truths lie in the gaps science hasn't yet reached? And why do some questions grow louder the deeper we look? Settle in, slow your breathing, and let the darkness sharpen your senses. Because we're about to explore 30 of the most unsettling mysteries that logic can't quite hold together. Let's begin, one strange question at a time. In the far reaches of southeastern Iran, where the desert stretches in muted golds and browns, the ancient city of Shahr-e Sukhteh, the burnt city, rests in silence. Its mud brick ruins, shaped by wind and time, offer little hint of the lives that once filled its streets. And yet, beneath this quiet landscape, archaeologists uncovered an artifact so unexpected, so strangely advanced for its era, that it continues to stir debate decades after its discovery: an artificial eye, over 4,000 years old. Found in the grave of a woman who lived around 2900 BCE, the object is small, dark, polished, and delicately inlaid with gold filaments that radiate from the center like sunlit spokes. At first glance, it seems decorative, perhaps ceremonial. But closer examination revealed something more complex. The eye had been carefully fitted with a thin layer of bitumen to secure it in place. Microscopic impressions on the woman's skull suggest she wore it in life, not merely in death. An early prosthetic, or something symbolic crafted with remarkable precision? Researchers have long debated its purpose. The mainstream view paints a picture of innovation within an advanced Bronze Age society, an early attempt at restoring appearance and dignity to someone who had lost an eye. The craftsmanship supports this. Symmetrical lines, a carefully modeled iris, and a surface polished smooth enough to catch the desert sun. For its time, the detail is extraordinary. But as with many discoveries at Shahr-e Sukhteh, the story does not end with conventional explanations. Why inlay delicate gold threads, arranged in a pattern reminiscent of electrical spokes or celestial symbols? Was the eye purely cosmetic? Or did it serve a ritual or spiritual function now lost to us? Some anthropologists suggest the design may hold cultural meaning tied to ancient beliefs about vision, protection, or divine presence. Others point to the region's long-standing fascination with the heavens and wonder if the eye's radial pattern was meant to reflect a cosmological idea rather than anatomical accuracy. There are, of course, more speculative interpretations, ideas that float at the edges of archaeology. Those who explore fringe theories point to the eye's unexpected sophistication and ask whether Shahr-e Sukhteh possessed technologies or artistic insights we no longer recognize. A symbolic artifact linked to priestly status, a device used in ceremonies, or, as a few suggest with cautious curiosity, something whose function we have not yet imagined. Even the woman herself adds to the mystery. Her remains indicate she stood slightly taller than average for her time. She suffered from a condition that may have caused long-term inflammation, perhaps the reason she needed the prosthetic, but little else is known about her life, her role, or why she was buried with extraordinary care. Today, the artificial eye rests behind museum glass, its dark surface still glinting with faint iridescence. It offers no answers, only the quiet, persistent question that seems to linger in the empty halls of Shahr-e Sukhteh. What stories have been buried beneath the sand, and how many of them remain just beyond our understanding. From the buried streets of Keeladi, where silent bricks hint at a civilization almost forgotten, we turn our attention westward, across continents and centuries, to a mystery that has captivated historians, treasure hunters, and dreamers alike. The hidden tomb of Alexander the Great. Unlike Keeladi, whose remains quietly rest beneath soil, Alexander's final resting place has been the subject of intrigue, legend, and speculation for over 2 millennia. Accounts of Alexander's death in 323 BCE describe a grand funeral procession in Babylon, with his body reportedly transported in a golden sarcophagus and later moved to Egypt. Ancient historians tell us that Ptolemy, one of his generals, secured the body in Alexandria, a city Alexander himself founded. Yet, beyond these fragments of record, the trail grows cold. Archaeological surveys of Alexandria's modern streets have yet to reveal definitive evidence of the tomb. For a conqueror whose influence spanned 3 continents, the absence of a known resting place is as puzzling as it is profound. Descriptions from classical sources suggest a tomb of extraordinary grandeur, adorned with gold, marble, and statues, fitting for a man who once proclaimed himself the son of Zeus. Travelers in antiquity, including the Roman historian Strabo, spoke of lavish mausoleums visited by admirers from across the known world. Yet, over centuries, earthquakes, shifting coastlines, and urban expansion may have swallowed these monuments, leaving only whispers of their existence. Some scholars propose Alexandria's harbor and surrounding districts conceal the tomb beneath layers of sediment and modern construction. Others look to less conventional theories. Could Alexander's final resting place have been hidden intentionally to protect it from looters or political rivals? Fringe hypotheses suggest the tomb may lie far from Alexandria entirely, transported secretly to obscure locations now lost to history. Each possibility raises further questions. If such a monumental tomb were found, what artifacts, records, or even human remains might it hold? Could it reveal lost chapters of Alexander's campaigns, or insights into the ancient world that history has not preserved? The allure of Alexander's tomb lies not only in what it might contain, but in the mystery itself. Every failed excavation, every conflicting historical account, strengthens the sense of the unknown. The figure of Alexander, larger than life in history and myth, continues to challenge our understanding of mortality and memory. We are left to wonder how a man who reshaped the known world could vanish so completely from it. Standing before the possibility of this lost tomb, one cannot help but feel the weight of centuries pressing against silence. Across time and geography, from the sophisticated streets of Keeladi to the sunlit ruins of Shahr-e Sukhteh, and now to the bustling remnants of ancient Alexandria, the human impulse to remember, to honor, and to seek the unknown persists. And in the absence of certainty, the question remains, where exactly does the story of Alexander truly end? From the buried streets of Keeladi, where silent bricks hint at a civilization almost forgotten, we turn our attention westward across continents and centuries to a mystery that has captivated historians, treasure hunters, and dreamers alike: the hidden tomb of Alexander the Great. Unlike Keeladi, whose remains quietly rest beneath soil, Alexander's final resting place has been the subject of intrigue, legend, and speculation for over 2 millennia. Accounts of Alexander's death in 323 BCE describe a grand funeral procession in Babylon, with his body reportedly transported in a golden sarcophagus and later moved to Egypt. Ancient historians tell us that Ptolemy, one of his generals, secured the body in Alexandria, a city Alexander himself founded. Yet, beyond these fragments of record, the trail grows cold. Archaeological surveys of Alexandria's modern streets have yet to reveal definitive evidence of the tomb. For a conqueror whose influence spanned 3 continents, The absence of a known resting place is as puzzling as it is profound. Descriptions from classical sources suggest a tomb of extraordinary grandeur, adorned with gold, marble, and statues, fitting for a man who once proclaimed himself the son of Zeus. Travelers in antiquity, including the Roman historian Strabo, spoke of lavish mausoleums visited by admirers from across the known world. Yet, over centuries, earthquakes, shifting coastlines, and urban expansion may have swallowed these monuments, leaving only whispers of their existence. Some scholars propose Alexandria's harbor and surrounding districts conceal the tomb beneath layers of sediment and modern construction. Others look to less conventional theories. Could Alexander's final resting place have been hidden intentionally to protect it from looters or political rivals? Fringe hypotheses suggest the tomb may lie far from Alexandria entirely, transported secretly to obscure locations now lost to history. Each possibility raises further questions. If such a monumental tomb were found, what artifacts, records, or even human remains might it hold? Could it reveal lost chapters of Alexander's campaigns, or insights into the ancient world that history has not preserved? The allure of Alexander's tomb lies not only in what it might contain, but in the mystery itself. Every failed excavation, every conflicting historical account, strengthens the sense of the unknown. The figure of Alexander, larger than life in history and myth, continues to challenge our understanding of mortality and memory. We are left to wonder how a man who reshaped the known world could vanish so completely from it. Standing before the possibility of this lost tomb, one cannot help but feel the weight of centuries pressing against silence. Across time and geography, from the sophisticated streets of Keeladi to the sunlit ruins of Shahr-e Sukhteh, and now to the bustling remnants of ancient Alexandria, the human impulse to remember, to honor, and to seek the unknown persists. And in the absence of certainty, the question remains, where exactly does the story of Alexander truly end? From the bustling streets of Alexandria, where the city itself conceals centuries of lost history, we now journey eastward to the rugged cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea, where silence has preserved secrets for millennia. Here, hidden within the arid canyons of the Judean desert, lie the caves of Qumran, a site that would quietly rewrite our understanding of ancient religious life and leave scholars grappling with questions that have yet to be fully answered. The story begins in the mid-20th century, when Bedouin shepherds stumbled upon a dark, narrow cave containing fragile scrolls, meticulously preserved in clay jars. These documents, later called the Dead Sea Scrolls, included fragments of the Hebrew Bible, apocryphal texts, and writings unlike any previously known. Their discovery, dating from around the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE, offered an unprecedented window into the beliefs, practices, and daily lives of a mysterious Jewish sect. Yet the more we learned, the more the shadows of uncertainty deepened. Qumran itself appears almost otherworldly. Ruins of communal buildings, ritual baths, and storage areas suggest an organized settlement, yet the purpose of the inhabitants remains debated. Were they Essenes, a sect devoted to ascetic practices, or a group with entirely different religious and social structures that the scrolls only hint at? Some archaeologists point to the deliberate placement of scrolls in the caves, arguing that they were hidden in anticipation of conflict, perhaps the Roman conquest. Others wonder whether certain scrolls were created elsewhere and stored here, raising questions about how widespread or influential this community truly was. Even the caves themselves add layers of mystery. More than a dozen were found initially, but local lore and recent surveys hint at additional, still undiscovered chambers. Could there be scrolls or artifacts yet untouched, containing knowledge or teachings lost to time? And what of the content itself, the enigmatic texts, cryptic symbols, and incomplete manuscripts that resist easy translation? Some suggest they may reveal esoteric rituals, calendrical secrets, or interpretations of scripture radically different from the mainstream. Then there are the whispers of more speculative theories, floating at the edges of scholarly inquiry. Some propose that the scrolls contain hidden prophecies, or encoded messages whose meaning has been misunderstood for centuries. Others ask whether certain manuscripts point to a broader network of ancient knowledge, scattered across deserts and mountains, waiting for discovery. As the sun dips behind the limestone cliffs, the Qumran caves seem almost alive with silence. The scrolls, fragile yet enduring, whisper stories of devotion, exile, and secrecy. And yet, for all that has been uncovered, a profound question remains. How many truths lie still hidden within these shadowed chambers, beyond our reach, and what might they tell us about the people who once called this harsh, remote landscape home? In the stillness of Qumran, history feels less like a record and more like a riddle, one that continues to challenge, haunt, and invite us into its quiet, unending mystery. From the shadowed cliffs of Qumran, where the silence of the desert preserves whispers of ancient devotion, we travel north into the fertile lands of modern-day Jordan, to a site that predates even written history. Here at Ain Ghazal, archaeologists uncovered a collection of artifacts that defy easy explanation. Remarkable statues crafted over 8,000 years ago, in a world most would consider the very dawn of civilization. The Ain Ghazal statues are striking in their realism and scale. Standing nearly a meter tall, made of plaster applied over reed frameworks, they depict human figures with elongated faces, deeply etched eyes, and carefully rendered torsos. Some are complete, others fragmentary, yet each carries an unmistakable presence. They are neither stylized idols nor crude representations. They feel intentional, personal, almost intimate. How and why such figures were created in the pre-pottery Neolithic period remains a question that has puzzled scholars since their discovery in the 1980s. Excavations reveal a complex settlement, densely packed houses, burial grounds, and evidence of long-term habitation. The statues, however, were found buried beneath the floors of the community, deliberately interred and perhaps ritually decommissioned. Were they guardians of the dead, offerings to unseen forces, or reflections of ancestors whose memory the community wished to preserve? Their placement suggests purpose, yet no textual records remain to explain it. Mainstream archaeology frames them as expressions of religious or social significance, a community grappling with mortality, identity, or spirituality. Yet the precision of their construction, the lifelike details, and the sheer number of statues hint at cultural sophistication far beyond what we typically associate with this period. How did these early people achieve such craftsmanship, and why devote such care to representations of the human form? Fringe interpretations, equally intriguing, invite deeper speculation. Some propose the statues encode symbolic knowledge, perhaps early cosmologies or proto-ritualistic practices lost to time. Others wonder whether these figures served as a form of social memory, preserving likenesses of individuals for generations in a world with no written language. Could they reflect an early, unrecorded philosophical understanding of humanity and identity? Even the faces themselves provoke questions. Their hollow eyes seem to hold quiet observation, as if they were meant to witness, to watch, to endure. Were they silent participants in rituals we can only imagine, or something more enigmatic, an early attempt to capture the essence of the human soul in physical form? As dusk settles over the plains of Ain Ghazal, the statues appear almost to emerge from the earth, standing in quiet testimony to a society both sophisticated and profoundly mysterious. They invite us to wonder not just about their creators, but about the ideas, fears, and beliefs that guided lives thousands of years ago. And so, amid these ancient figures, the question lingers. What truths about human history, about early understanding of life, death, and memory might still be hidden beneath the soil, waiting for discovery? And how much will we ever truly know about the world that gave rise to the Ain Ghazal statues? From the silent plains of Jordan, where the Ain Ghazal statues gaze eternally from the earth, we journey now across the Pacific to the rugged peaks of San Pedro Mountain in Peru, where a discovery emerged that has challenged conventional understanding of human history. Hidden in a remote cave, shielded by jagged cliffs and centuries of sediment, lay a mummy, unlike any archaeologists had encountered before, the San Pedro Mountain mummy. The mummy is small in stature, barely over a foot long, yet remarkably well preserved. Its elongated skull, slender limbs, and unusual skeletal proportions immediately set it apart from any known human population. Wrapped carefully in textile remnants, the body exhibits features that are both astonishing and unsettling. 3 fingers on each hand, a slightly enlarged cranium, and delicate bone structures that do not conform to standard human anatomy. Radiocarbon dating places the remains at around 1,000 years old, though this timeline is still debated, leaving room for speculation about the origins of this mysterious being. Scientists who first examined the mummy noted the precision with which it had been prepared, suggesting advanced knowledge of preservation methods. DNA testing has been attempted, though results remain inconclusive, complicated by contamination and the unusual nature of the tissue. Mainstream archaeology tentatively categorizes the find as an unusual congenital mutation or a case of severe deformity, yet the body's proportions, skeletal anomalies, and facial structure challenge these explanations. How could such a small, fully developed individual, with skeletal consistency across the body, exist in a population so remote and so long ago? The location itself adds to the intrigue. San Pedro Mountain is isolated, its peaks often shrouded in mist and cloud, difficult to access even today. For a mummy of such care and complexity to be hidden here suggests deliberate placement, perhaps ritualistic, perhaps protective. Were the inhabitants aware of the being's differences, honoring it as sacred, or were they attempting to conceal it from outsiders? Some propose it may have held spiritual or symbolic significance, a guardian figure, or even a form of ancestor veneration, unlike anything recorded in Andean cultures. Speculative theories have naturally arisen, fueled by the mummy's distinctive anatomy. Fringe researchers suggest the possibility of a non-human origin, pointing to the 3 fingers and cranial elongation as evidence of an otherworldly lineage. Others propose that the being could represent a branch of humanity previously unknown, an isolated population with genetic traits lost to time. While these theories remain unverified, the very fact that they persist underscores the challenges the mummy presents to conventional frameworks. Even the way the mummy was discovered adds an air of mystery. Unlike carefully excavated sites, the find was made during informal exploration, in a cave where few had ventured. There are whispers of other small bones found in the vicinity, fragments that may hint at a larger population or at ritualistic practices now lost to history. Were these caves a sanctuary, a burial ground, or something far more enigmatic, perhaps a repository of knowledge, beliefs, or beings that the local populations once revered or feared? As sunlight filters across the jagged rocks of San Pedro Mountain, the mummy rests quietly, a silent testament to the limits of our understanding. Its unusual form, meticulous preservation, and enigmatic context continue to provoke questions rather than answers. What culture prepared it, and for what purpose? Could it represent a chapter of human history that never made it into the record, or something entirely beyond our current comprehension? In the shadow of these mountains, the San Pedro Mountain mummy waits, both fragile and enduring. It reminds us that even in the age of modern science, mysteries remain, small, silent, and unyielding. And it leaves us with one enduring question. How many other truths lie hidden, preserved in the quiet corners of the world, waiting for someone to notice, to wonder, and to imagine what might still exist beyond our understanding. From the mist-shrouded caves of San Pedro Mountain, where the silent mummy rests, we now turn our gaze north across oceans and deserts to the rugged mesas and canyons of the American Southwest. Here, a civilization once thrived in astonishing complexity, leaving behind sprawling cliff dwellings and intricate roadways. But then, nearly without warning, it vanished. This is the story of the Anasazi Disappearance, a mystery that has fascinated archaeologists, historians, and storytellers for centuries. The Anasazi, or ancestral Puebloans, flourished for over 1,000 years, from roughly 100 CE to the late 13th century. Their settlements, stone and adobe pueblos built into cliff faces and atop mesas, speak of architectural skill, social organization, and deep knowledge of their environment. Villages like Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde reveal ceremonial structures, sophisticated irrigation systems, and artifacts suggesting a rich cultural and spiritual life. Pottery, tools, and ceremonial objects indicate trade networks extending hundreds of miles, connecting the Anasazi to distant communities. Yet, by the late 1200s, these communities were abandoned. Entire villages, once bustling with activity, were left empty. Hearths went cold. Fields were left untended. The reasons remain unclear. Mainstream archaeology points to environmental factors. Extended droughts, soil depletion, and shifting climates may have forced the Anasazi to relocate. Evidence of deforestation and resource scarcity supports this interpretation. Conflict or social upheaval may have exacerbated the migration, but the deeper one looks, the more enigmatic the disappearance becomes. Why did the Anasazi leave structures so carefully built in places so difficult to abandon? Many cliff dwellings, like those in Mesa Verde, are tucked high into canyon walls, accessible only by narrow ladders and precarious paths. Did these locations serve defensive purposes, spiritual significance, or both? And if the environmental hardships were so severe, why do some sites show little evidence of widespread famine or violence at the time of abandonment? Speculative theories add further layers to the mystery. Some suggest that the Anasazi were guided by visions, dreams, or prophecies to seek new lands, following spiritual directives that have been lost to history. Others propose migration due to unknown external pressures, conflict with neighboring tribes, or even unexplained phenomena that modern science cannot yet account for. Fringe hypotheses range from celestial alignments in their architecture indicating advanced astronomical knowledge, to suggestions that some may have left to join other undiscovered civilizations. Artifacts left behind complicate the story. Pottery shards, ceremonial masks, and intricately woven textiles remain, yet they offer tantalizing hints rather than answers. Even the most sacred kivas, subterranean ceremonial chambers, were abandoned intact, with ritual items sometimes left in place. Were these objects left deliberately, as offerings or messages for those who might come later? Or were they forgotten in the urgency of flight? As we walk the sun-bleached mesas and peer into the shadowed cliff dwellings, there is a haunting sense of absence. The Anasazi left no written records, and their voices reach us only through the silent structures they built and the artifacts they left behind. We are left to wonder not just why they disappeared, but what knowledge, culture, and wisdom vanished with them. The story of the Anasazi disappearance reminds us that human history is fragile and often incomplete. Even amidst the ruins, questions persist. Where did the Anasazi go, and what traces of their journey remain hidden across the landscape? What truths about their society, their choices, and their fate are still waiting to be uncovered, quietly preserved in the cliffs, canyons, and mesas of the Southwest? From the silent mesas of the American Southwest, where the Anasazi left only stone dwellings and unanswered questions, we now travel across the Mediterranean to the rugged landscapes of Sardinia. an island whose history is as ancient as it is enigmatic. Among its rolling hills and sun-baked plains lies a discovery that has puzzled archaeologists and inspired fascination worldwide: the giants of Monte Prama. Unearthed in the 1970s near Cabras, the Monte Prama site revealed a remarkable collection of stone statues, towering figures carved from local sandstone, standing up to 2.5 meters tall. Their stylized forms are at once striking and unsettling: muscular torsos, elongated faces, prominent eyes, and detailed armor or shields. Some depict warriors clutching swords or spears. Others represent archers or mysterious ritual figures. The craftsmanship is extraordinary, hinting at a society capable of both artistic sophistication and technical precision. Radiocarbon dating places the statues between the 9th and 8th centuries BCE, contemporaneous with the Nuragic civilization that dominated Sardinia. Yet these figures differ markedly from other known Nuragic artifacts. Their sheer size, scale, and anatomical exaggeration set them apart, leaving researchers to wonder, who were they meant to represent, and why were they crafted in this particular way? Some scholars suggest the statues were guardians of sacred spaces or commemorations of legendary heroes, yet the lack of inscriptions leaves their true purpose ambiguous. Even more intriguing is the context in which they were found. Buried deliberately beneath layers of soil, the statues appear to have been intentionally hidden or ritually interred. Was this a protective measure, a symbolic act, or a sign of societal upheaval? The deliberate burial suggests a story lost to time, a memory encoded in stone rather than words. And despite decades of study, many statues remain fragmented. Their arrangement and original placement still matters of speculation. Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Some propose the Monte Prama figures represent giants, inspired by myths of extraordinary beings from the distant past. Others suggest they may symbolize divine or semi-divine warriors, intermediaries between humans and gods, reflecting a belief system we can scarcely reconstruct. The statues' exaggerated proportions and otherworldly presence fuel the imagination. Were they meant to inspire awe, fear, or veneration? Could these figures have been central to rituals now completely obscured by time? The discovery also raises questions about the Nuragic civilization itself. Known primarily for their megalithic towers, or nurages, they were skilled builders and seafarers. Yet the statues of Monte Prama suggest an artistic and symbolic sophistication that challenges previous assumptions about Bronze and Iron Age Sardinia. How did such a small society conceive and execute these monumental works? And what drove them to bury them, leaving future generations to stumble upon their silent testimony? As the Sardinian sun casts long shadows across the plains and hills of Monte Prama, the stone figures seem almost alive, frozen in gestures that speak of strength, ritual, and remembrance. They invite us to consider not just the hands that carved them, but the minds and beliefs that inspired their creation. And so, standing among these silent giants, one cannot help but wonder what truths about the Nuragic people, their myths, and their world remain hidden beneath the soil. What stories, ambitions, or fears did these statues encode, messages meant to endure for millennia, yet still eluding our understanding? In the quiet of Monte Prama, the past persists, waiting for those who will seek its secrets. From the sun-drenched plains of Sardinia, where the giants of Monte Prama stand frozen in stone, we now turn our gaze northward, across continents and centuries, to the dense, marshy forests of the Ural Mountains in Russia. There, buried for millennia beneath layers of peat, lies one of the oldest wooden sculptures ever discovered: the Shigir Idol. Unearthed in 1890 in the peat bogs near the village of Shigir, this towering wooden figure stretches over 5 meters in height, composed of multiple carved wooden planks joined together with wooden pegs. Its surface is covered in intricate geometric patterns, zigzags, and symbolic motifs that spiral along its length. The markings are mysterious. Some appear to be symbolic language, others possibly representations of humans, animals, or celestial phenomena. Radiocarbon dating has revealed an astonishing age, approximately 11,500 years old, making the Shigir Idol nearly twice as old as the Egyptian pyramids. The idol's sheer antiquity immediately raises questions about its creators. Homo sapiens had only recently settled permanently in the dense forests of this region following the last ice age. Yet here they left a monumental work of art, sophisticated in both conception and execution. Why carve such an elaborate figure in wood, a material that decays quickly, rather than in stone? Was it intended as a ritual object, a guide to the spiritual world, or a record of knowledge encoded in symbolic language? Mainstream archaeology suggests the Shigir Idol may have served as a totem, marking sacred territory or acting as a ritualistic conduit between the living and the spiritual realms. Yet, as with many of the world's oldest artifacts, the more we examine it, the more enigmatic it becomes. The patterns carved into the idol do not match any known prehistoric symbolism, leaving scholars divided on their meaning. Could these designs represent a proto-writing system, lost to time, or a complex calendar marking astronomical events and seasonal cycles? Some researchers even propose that the repeated motifs might convey mythological stories, ancestral knowledge, or spiritual teachings, though we may never fully decipher their meaning. The Shigir Idol also challenges assumptions about the technological capabilities of early humans. Carved from larch wood using stone tools, its size, precision, and durability are extraordinary for a post-glacial society. How did a relatively small hunter-gatherer group conceive, plan, and execute such a structure with no written records to guide them? And why was it ultimately buried in peat, deliberately hidden, or simply preserved by the accident of environment? Speculative interpretations naturally follow. Some suggest the idol represents an early form of shamanistic practice, a towering figure embodying spirits or gods of the forest. Others propose that it may symbolize a lost race of humans or beings now vanished from history, whose knowledge and culture remain hidden beneath the layers of time. While these ideas cannot be proven, they underscore the profound mystery the Shigir Idol presents, a tangible yet enigmatic connection to humans who lived more than 10 millennia ago. Today, the idol rests in a museum, its carved surfaces darkened by age but still radiating a quiet power. Its presence invites contemplation, urging us to consider not only the people who carved it, but the world they inhabited, a world at the threshold of civilization, yet already capable of creating objects of immense symbolic depth. As we stand before the Shigir Idol in imagination, one cannot help but wonder, what knowledge, beliefs, or stories were encoded in these carvings? What truths about human creativity, spirituality, and perception have been lost beneath centuries of forest, peat, and silence? And how many other messages, hidden in the forgotten corners of our world, still await discovery, patiently enduring the slow passage of time? From the frozen forests of Siberia, where the Shigir Idol has silently endured for over 11,000 years, we now return to the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt, where the Nile River winds past quarries of gleaming stone and colossal monuments. Here lies a marvel, both completed and abandoned, the unfinished Obelisk of Aswan, a monument that offers a rare glimpse into the ambitions, techniques, and enigmas of ancient Egyptian engineering. Nestled in the northern quarries of Aswan, the obelisk lies on its side, still attached to the bedrock from which it was carved. Measuring an astonishing 42 meters in length and weighing an estimated 1,200 tons, it would have been the largest obelisk ever constructed, dwarfing those that now stand in cities across the world. Its unfinished state, however, tells a story of sudden halt, of vision interrupted by forces we may never fully understand. Deep fissures in the granite, cracks that rendered the stone unusable, are cited as the reason work ceased. Yet even this explanation invites questions. Could such a monumental error occur after months, perhaps years, of careful planning and labor? The obelisk's construction demonstrates extraordinary skill. Ancient Egyptian craftsmen chiseled directly into the granite bedrock using dolerite pounding stones, creating grooves and shaping an enormous figure without the advantage of modern machinery. The precision with which the obelisk was planned, the straight lines, the uniform tapering, and the careful attention to surface finish speaks to an engineering mastery that continues to impress modern scholars. Yet despite these achievements, the project was abandoned. What circumstances forced its halt? Was it purely structural, or might other factors, political, spiritual, or otherwise, have influenced the decision? Some researchers suggest that the cracks formed naturally during the process of quarrying, a miscalculation in understanding the stone's internal stresses. Others propose that external pressures, changes in the ruling pharaoh's priorities, shifts in labor allocation, or even catastrophic events might have played a role. Fringe interpretations venture further, questioning whether ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge of forces and phenomena we do not yet fully comprehend, knowledge that dictated the obelisk's abandonment with a precision that seems almost deliberate. The unfinished obelisk also raises questions about the logistics of ancient construction. If completed, moving a 1,200-ton monolith would have been unprecedented, requiring ingenuity on a scale that continues to fascinate engineers and historians alike. How were the Egyptians preparing to transport such a massive structure from the quarry to its intended destination in a temple or ceremonial space? The obelisk's unfinished state offers a tantalizing glimpse into these lost techniques, a silent testament to human ambition reaching the limits of possibility. Even lying dormant in the quarry, the obelisk communicates an almost mystical presence. Its surface, still marked with tool impressions, speaks to the labor of countless hands, the planning of visionary architects, and the intersection of art, religion, and engineering in a civilization obsessed with permanence and grandeur. It is both a monument and a riddle, completed in intent, unfinished in reality, leaving us to ponder what might have been. As the Egyptian sun casts long shadows across the pink granite of Aswan, the unfinished obelisk seems to whisper across millennia. What visions inspired its creation? And what forces, seen or unseen, interrupted its destiny? How much do we understand about the minds and methods of those who dared to shape stone on such a monumental scale? In the quiet of the quarry, the obelisk endures as a silent enigma, a reminder that even in a civilization famed for its mastery of the monumental, mysteries remain, waiting patiently for those willing to seek them. From the sunlit quarries of Aswan, where the unfinished obelisk lies frozen in time, we return once more to the rugged hills of Sardinia, revisiting a civilization whose mysteries extend far beyond the monumental giants of Monte Prama. Hidden among the rolling plains and low mountains are the giants' tombs, megalithic burial sites that continue to captivate archaeologists and explorers alike. The giants' tombs, or tombe dei giganti, are long, rectangular chambers often flanked by towering upright stones that form imposing facades. Constructed during the Bronze Age, around 1800 to 1000 BCE, these tombs were intended for collective burials, capable of housing dozens of individuals over successive generations. Some reach lengths of over 30 meters, dwarfing any contemporary burial structures in scale and suggesting a society with both organizational sophistication and a reverence for the dead that borders on the monumental. What immediately strikes observers is the deliberate grandeur of these tombs. Many feature semicircular exedras, stone arrangements fanning out like protective arms, and colossal central orthostats that resemble human figures in stylized form. Their construction required moving massive stones, some weighing several tons, across uneven terrain, a feat that speaks to both ingenuity and social cohesion. Yet, questions abound. Why did this civilization devote such extraordinary resources to funerary monuments, and what rituals or beliefs accompanied these burials? Inside the tombs, skeletal remains reveal a complex society, with evidence of healed injuries, varied diets, and occasional artifacts such as pottery, jewelry, and tools. Yet the more we study, the more the mystery deepens. Who were these individuals, elevated in death by such grand architecture, and why do we find no records, no written inscriptions, no decipherable symbols, explaining their significance? Mainstream archaeology suggests these were elite tombs of neuralgic communities meant to honor ancestors and cement social hierarchy. But the scale, uniformity, and symbolic elements of the tombs hint at a deeper cultural or spiritual significance, one largely lost to time. Speculative theories expand the intrigue. Some researchers propose the tombs were not merely burial sites, but sacred gateways, designed to connect the living with the divine, or the spirits of the dead. Others suggest the monumental size inspired myths of giants, perhaps as a symbolic exaggeration of the tomb's builders' ancestors, or even as a reflection of ritualized belief in beings larger than life. Could these tombs be remnants of a forgotten mythology, a culture that revered its ancestors as near deities, or even markers of extraordinary events now obscured by time? The tomb's alignment and placement also provoke questions. Many are oriented with careful attention to the landscape, facing hills, rivers, or celestial markers. Was this practical, ceremonial, or both? Did the builders possess astronomical knowledge, encoded in the very stones they raised? And what of the artifacts themselves, simple in appearance, yet carefully chosen and positioned, as if each object were a message for those who might come centuries later? As dusk settles over Sardinia, the giants' tombs cast long shadows across the land, silent sentinels of a past that remains only partially known. They are monuments to human ambition, devotion, and imagination, yet they guard their secrets jealously. Standing before these colossal tombs, one cannot help but wonder what stories of life, death, and belief are still hidden within their stone walls. How much of the neuralgic world and its understanding of existence remains locked in memory, waiting for discovery? And among these stones, what truths about humanity's reverence for the dead, and the myths we construct to understand them, still linger just beyond our reach? From the windswept hills of Sardinia, where the giants' tombs rise as silent guardians of a lost civilization, we now turn our attention across the ocean to the sun-baked deserts and rocky outcrops of California. Here, hidden in plain sight, lie petroglyphs, ancient carvings etched into stone that continue to confound scholars and ignite the imagination. Scattered across cliffs, canyon walls, and riverbeds, the California petroglyphs range from simple geometric shapes to intricate depictions of humans, animals, and abstract symbols. Some appear as spirals, concentric circles, or lattices of lines, while others resemble figures engaged in unknown rituals. These images, carved into basalt, sandstone, or granite, have endured for thousands of years, their surfaces weathered yet remarkably preserved by the arid environment. Radiocarbon dating of nearby habitation sites suggests many were created between 2,000 and 7,000 years ago, though some may be even older, hinting at a continuity of culture that stretches deep into prehistory. The purpose and meaning of these petroglyphs remain elusive. Anthropologists suggest they could have served religious or ceremonial functions, mapping sacred spaces, or recording astronomical and calendrical events. Some may have been used to communicate across generations, encoding knowledge of hunting grounds, water sources, or social structures. Yet many of the designs resist explanation. Why were certain symbols repeated across distant sites? Why do some figures seem almost otherworldly, depicting forms that do not correspond to known flora, fauna, or human anatomy? The location of the carvings adds another layer of mystery. Many are situated in places that require significant effort to reach, on sheer cliffs, atop mesas, or along narrow canyon walls. Were they intended for ritual observance, visible only to the initiated? Or were they markers meant to communicate something to those who understood their hidden significance? The effort required to create such carvings suggests an importance beyond mere decoration, yet the absence of accompanying records leaves their true purpose tantalizingly out of reach. Speculative theories have emerged to explain their enigmatic qualities. Some propose that the petroglyphs represent encounters with unknown phenomena, astronomical events, natural anomalies, or even entities that defy conventional explanation. Others suggest the carvings encode symbolic or spiritual knowledge of an advanced society, whose insights were transmitted through abstract imagery rather than written language. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the enduring fascination these sites inspire, a puzzle that blends art, history, and human curiosity into forms that still speak across millennia. The petroglyphs also challenge assumptions about the people who created them. Carved with stone tools into unforgiving rock surfaces, the images required patience, precision, and an intimate knowledge of their environment. Who were these artisans, and what worldview guided their hands? Were they chroniclers of everyday life, intermediaries with the spiritual realm, or keepers of esoteric knowledge, encoded in shapes we are not yet equipped to interpret? As the Californian sun dips behind distant mesas, the shadows lengthen over the petroglyph-covered rocks. The symbols seem to emerge from the stone, almost alive, whispering of cultures long gone yet unwilling to be forgotten. Each spiral, line, and figure invites contemplation, a silent challenge to those who stand before it, to see beyond the surface, to question assumptions, and to wonder about the minds that created them. And so, amid the quiet deserts and canyons of California, one is left with a profound question. What truths, what knowledge, or what stories are still hidden within these carvings, waiting for us to understand them? How many aspects of human history remain etched in stone, silently enduring, yet still beyond the reach of modern comprehension? From the sun-baked deserts and rocky mesas of California, where petroglyphs whisper ancient stories into the wind, we now journey across continents and millennia to the heart of Cappadocia, Turkey, a landscape of volcanic tuff, conical rock formations, and hidden passageways. Beneath this surreal terrain lies the astonishing Derinkuyu underground city, a subterranean labyrinth that continues to baffle historians and archaeologists alike. Derinkuyu stretches at least 85 meters deep, extending across multiple levels carved meticulously from soft volcanic rock. Entire neighborhoods exist underground. Narrow corridors wind past living quarters, kitchens, communal halls, wine and oil presses, storage rooms, and even stables. Ingenious ventilation shafts pierce the rock, bringing fresh air to the deepest chambers. Massive circular stone doors, perfectly fitted, could seal sections off from intruders, hinting at both defensive planning and a society attuned to the dangers of its time. The scale of the city is staggering, capable of sheltering tens of thousands of people for extended periods. Archaeologists date Derinkuyu's origins to at least the 8th century BCE, though some evidence suggests earlier use, perhaps even during the Hittite era. Mainstream explanations suggest the underground city was designed as a refuge from invading armies, a hidden stronghold to protect local populations. Its complexity and defensive architecture support this. Labyrinthine passageways, trap systems, and controlled access points indicate a sophisticated understanding of both engineering and security. Yet the sheer ambition of carving such a vast city from solid rock raises immediate questions. What level of organization and labor would be required to construct it? And how did ancient societies conceive of life entirely below the surface? Beyond its practical features, Derinkuyu evokes a sense of mystery and symbolism. Some researchers suggest it was more than a shelter. It may have served as a religious or spiritual sanctuary, a place for rituals, meditation, or even initiatory practices. Certain chambers bear unusual shapes, niches, or altars, whose purpose is still debated. Were they ceremonial or simply functional? The silence of the underground passages invites speculation. Could the builders have intended the city to be a microcosm of the world above, a reflection of their cosmology and beliefs, hidden beneath the earth for both protection and reverence? Speculative theories naturally arise from such an extraordinary sight. Fringe interpretations propose Derinkuyu may have been a refuge not just for humans, but for knowledge, sacred objects, or even beings lost to history. Others suggest that its scale and complexity point to a level of technological or organizational skill that challenges assumptions about ancient societies. Could it have been part of a network of underground cities stretching across Cappadocia, representing a society capable of extraordinary feats of engineering, now largely forgotten? Even today, the city feels alive with history. Walking through its narrow tunnels, one can imagine generations living in darkness, passing down traditions, fears, and wisdom, while the world above carried on unaware. Each carved wall, each stone door, each hidden chamber seems to echo with the footsteps of those who sought safety, sustenance, and perhaps a connection to forces they could not fully name. As the subterranean corridors of Derinkuyu stretch into shadow, one is left with profound questions. How much of this underground world remains undiscovered, hidden by centuries of earth and stone? What drove its builders to construct such an elaborate refuge, and what stories, knowledge, or experiences were carried into the depths of its passages? In the quiet darkness beneath Cappadocia, the city endures as both marvel and mystery, patiently inviting those who dare to explore its hidden chambers. From the labyrinthine corridors of Derinkuyu, where hidden chambers whisper of generations who sought refuge beneath the earth, we now shift our gaze eastward to the rolling plains and ancient river valleys of China, where one of the earliest known forms of writing emerges from bone and shell, the enigmatic dragon bones, better known today as oracle bones. These artifacts, often ox scapula or turtle plastrons, bear incised symbols that predate most written records, offering a tantalizing glimpse into a civilization grappling with questions of fate, power, and the natural world. The bones themselves are unassuming in size, yet extraordinary in purpose. Each bears cracks and marks created by heating, which were interpreted by diviners as messages from the ancestors or spirits. It is this fusion of ritual, record, and mystery that makes them simultaneously mundane and otherworldly. Archaeologists trace the use of oracle bones to the late Shang dynasty, around 1200 BCE, primarily in the royal courts of Anyang. The inscriptions are the earliest known examples of Chinese writing, yet their content is as enigmatic as their form. Questions inscribed upon these bones ranged from the practical, predicting harvests, military outcomes, or the weather, to the profoundly spiritual, seeking guidance on childbirth, illness, or the favor of ancestors. Each question was etched carefully, and the resulting cracks from the heating process were interpreted by diviners to deliver answers, a practice blending ritual, intuition, and early systematic observation. The bones raise immediate and enduring questions. How did a civilization so long ago develop such a sophisticated system for recording and interpreting events? What motivated the painstaking effort of carving symbols into bone, knowing that the message would be subjected to the unpredictable forces of fire and fracture? And why were some inscriptions so cryptic, referencing entities, rituals, or events that remain largely indecipherable even today? Scholars have decoded many characters, yet a significant portion resists translation, hinting at layers of meaning now lost to time. The origin of the bones themselves carries intrigue. Often referred to as dragon bones in historical records, many were later ground into powder for medicinal use, a practice that may have destroyed countless examples of early writing. Could the widespread use of these bones in medicine be responsible for gaps in our understanding of Shang culture? And what might the lost fragments have revealed about the relationship between divination, governance, and daily life in one of humanity's earliest literate societies? Speculative interpretations naturally emerge. Some researchers propose that the oracle bones were more than divination tools. They may have functioned as a proto-scientific method, an attempt to observe patterns and predict outcomes systematically. Others suggest that the repeated motifs, symbols, and phrasing hint at cosmological or even metaphysical concepts that remain beyond modern comprehension. Fringe theories occasionally imagine the bones as evidence of contact with unknown intelligences, inspired by their cryptic inscriptions and the seeming precision of some divinatory outcomes. While these ideas cannot be verified, the bones' aura of mystery persists, inviting contemplation of worlds only partially illuminated by history. The bones also provoke reflection on human curiosity itself. Each crack, each inscription, is a dialogue across millennia, a question posed to forces unseen, a human attempt to navigate uncertainty, to seek knowledge and control in a world of unpredictability. The oracle bones exemplify the intersection of practicality and ritual, of observation and belief, and of life measured against the immensity of time. They are both tools and symbols, mundane yet extraordinary, intimate yet connected to the vast machinery of society and spirituality. As the shadows lengthen over the plains of Anyang, one can almost hear the echo of ancient diviners, their hands poised over bone, fire in the hearth, eyes tracing lines and cracks, listening for answers beyond themselves. The oracle bones endure not only as artifacts, but as invitations to consider the limits of knowledge, the origins of writing, and the ways humans have sought to commune with the unknown. And so, standing in imagination before these simple yet profound objects, we are left with questions that linger across time. How much of Shang society, its beliefs, its fears, and its wisdom, remains hidden in symbols yet undeciphered? What truths about human ingenuity, spirituality, and the desire to predict the future are encoded in these fragments of bone, and what else, waiting silently in the soil, might still lie beyond our understanding, quietly preserving the voices of those who lived thousands of years before us? From the oracle bones of Anyang, where ancient diviners etched questions to the unknown, we now journey to the shifting sands of the Arabian desert, where the winds hide secrets as old as civilization itself. Beneath the dunes, and long whispered about in Bedouin legends, lies the elusive city often called the Atlantis of the Sands, or Ubar, a lost metropolis whose story straddles the line between history and myth. Ubar has been described in ancient texts as a center of trade and wealth, a city that once flourished as a hub for frankincense, myrrh, and other precious commodities. Its existence was hinted at in the writings of classical historians, yet for centuries it remained undetected, as though swallowed by the desert itself. Explorers and archaeologists alike have long sought its location, drawn by tantalizing clues, faint tracks in the sand, ruins buried under millennia of shifting dunes, and local oral traditions recounting a city that vanished in a single night, consumed by sand and silence. Satellite imagery and modern surveys have revealed ancient caravan routes converging in what may have been the site of Ubar, suggesting a civilization organized enough to support extensive trade networks across the Arabian Peninsula. Excavations have uncovered remnants of walls, cisterns, and fortifications, hinting at a city with sophisticated infrastructure. Mainstream archaeology interprets Ubar as a trading hub that declined due to environmental changes, including the desiccation of water sources and shifting dunes that made the area uninhabitable. But even this explanation leaves many questions unresolved. How did a city of such apparent wealth and organization vanish so completely? Why are there so few surviving records or inscriptions to illuminate its society? The desert itself seems complicit in the city's erasure. Shifting sands have concealed not only the ruins, but also the traces of its roads, wells, and possibly sacred sites. Some researchers suggest that catastrophic natural events, earthquakes, sinkholes, or sudden collapse of aquifers, may have contributed to its disappearance. Others propose that sandstorms buried the city incrementally over centuries, creating the illusion of sudden annihilation. Yet, when viewed against the harsh, unyielding landscape, one cannot help but feel that something more enigmatic might have been at play. Speculative theories deepen the mystery. The dramatic tales recorded in Arab folklore describe Ubar as a city cursed for its hubris, swallowed overnight by the desert sands, echoing narratives of lost civilizations from cultures across the world. Some fringe interpretations even suggest that Ubar could represent a portal between historical memory and myth, a place where environmental catastrophe intersected with human imagination to produce a story that has endured for millennia. Could Ubar have been more than a trade center, a spiritual or ritual site whose very existence defied permanence in the mortal realm? Artifacts recovered from potential Ubar sites, pottery fragments, foundations of structures, and remnants of fortifications offer glimpses into the life that once flourished here, yet the human story remains fragmented. Who lived in Ubar, and how did they negotiate the challenges of desert life? What systems of governance, religion, or commerce guided their society? And what happened to those who survived, if any, when the city ceased to exist as a functioning settlement? As the sun sets over the rolling dunes, casting long shadows over the pale, wind-sculpted sand, one can almost sense the city's presence beneath the surface. The sands whisper of markets, caravans, and the footsteps of those who lived and died without leaving a trace, or whose traces have been hidden so effectively that even modern technology can only suggest what lies beneath. Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands, endures as a riddle framed by time, wind, and sand. Its story challenges our understanding of the fragility of human settlement, the interplay between environment and civilization, and the boundaries between history and legend. Standing at the edge of the desert, it is impossible not to wonder, what truths about Ubar remain buried beneath the dunes, waiting for discovery? And how many other civilizations, equally brilliant and equally fleeting, have vanished from human memory, leaving only whispers in the wind to hint at their existence? From the shifting sands of the Arabian desert, where the lost city of Ubar lingers just beneath the surface, we now ascend the steep hills overlooking the Urubamba Valley in Peru, where a fortress of stone rises above the city of Cusco, the enigmatic Sacsayhuamán Walls. Here, colossal stones fit together with astonishing precision, forming a structure that continues to defy explanation and inspire awe. Sacsayhuamán is not a single building, but a complex of terraces, ramparts, and massive walls, constructed using stones weighing up to 200 tons. These megaliths are carved, polished, and interlocked in a way that requires no mortar, yet the fit is so exact that even a knife cannot be inserted between them. The walls zigzag across the hillside, creating a defensive layout of extraordinary sophistication. Yet their purpose seems to transcend mere military strategy. They are both fortress and monument, blending functionality with architectural grandeur. Archaeologists date much of the construction to the 15th century, during the height of the Inca Empire, yet evidence suggests that earlier civilizations may have influenced its design, or that the stones themselves were quarried and transported in ways that remain poorly understood. Mainstream explanations attribute the construction to the Incas' advanced engineering skills, noting their ability to move massive stones using levers, ropes, and manpower. Yet even by these standards, the sheer scale, weight, and precision of the stones invite wonder. How could such enormous blocks be moved uphill, shaped so precisely, and fitted together with near-perfect alignment without the benefit of modern machinery? The arrangement of the stones adds another layer of mystery. The walls' interlocking shapes do not follow simple geometric patterns. Instead, each stone seems uniquely cut to fit its neighbors, as if the builders worked with an intuitive knowledge of structural stability far beyond what is easily explained. Earthquakes, frequent in this region, test these constructions annually, yet the walls have remained remarkably intact. Could the builders have possessed knowledge of seismic forces, anticipating centuries of tremors that would challenge the stability of any structure? Speculative theories abound. Some researchers suggest that Sacsayhuamán was a site of astronomical or spiritual significance, with stones aligned to celestial events or sacred landscapes. Others propose that the precision of the masonry hints at a lost knowledge or technology passed down from a civilization far older than the Inca, whose techniques were either forgotten or deliberately concealed. Fringe theories occasionally suggest that the stones themselves were levitated or manipulated using methods now lost to history, a notion inspired by the almost impossible fit and weight of the blocks. Even the human element of Sacsayhuamán adds to its enigma. How many laborers would have been required to quarry, transport, shape, and assemble these massive stones? What social organization, planning, and vision were necessary to coordinate such a monumental endeavor? And what cultural or spiritual forces motivated these efforts, driving generations to carve their mark into the mountainside with such enduring precision? As the sun sets over the Urubamba Valley, the walls of Sacsayhuamán cast long shadows across the hillside, their zigzagging forms evoking the jagged teeth of some great stone creature. The air carries the weight of centuries, and one can almost imagine the builders' hands shaping stone, their chants echoing against the rocks, their vision etched into every massive block. Standing before these walls, it is impossible not to feel the pull of the unknown. What secrets are encoded in the choice of stone, the placement of each block, and the staggering precision of construction? How much knowledge, lost or hidden, lies behind these monumental forms? And as we trace the contours of the fortress with our eyes, we are left with the same question that has haunted observers for generations. How did humans, with only the tools and techniques known to their time, create something so enduring, so precise, and so quietly defiant of explanation? Sacsayhuamán endures as a testament to human ingenuity and mystery alike, a silent fortress that continues to challenge our understanding and invite us to wonder what else the past may conceal, patiently awaiting discovery. From the rugged hills above Cusco, where the Sacsayhuamán Walls stand as silent witnesses to human ambition, we now cross continents and millennia to the verdant valleys of southwestern France, where the entrance to a narrow limestone cave opens like a portal to a prehistoric world. This is Lascaux, a cavern whose walls hold some of the most extraordinary and enigmatic artworks ever created by humans. Discovered in 1940 by a group of teenagers, the Lascaux cave revealed a labyrinth of chambers adorned with paintings and engravings dating back approximately 17,000 years. The walls are covered with more than 600 parietal images depicting horses, bulls, deer, bison, and enigmatic human-animal hybrids, rendered with astonishing detail and dynamism. The figures seem almost alive, frozen mid-motion, their forms conveying not just shape, but spirit. Ochre, charcoal, and manganese were employed to create colors that have endured through the millennia, their vibrancy a testament to the skill and intention of their creators. The scale and sophistication of the paintings immediately raise profound questions. How did hunter-gatherers, living in a world defined by survival, devote time and resources to such intricate and symbolic artwork? Some suggest the paintings served ritual or ceremonial purposes, perhaps to ensure successful hunts or to communicate with unseen forces. Others see them as expressions of early cognitive and artistic development, a human need to create meaning in a vast and often hostile world. Yet the choice of subjects, the placement of images deep within a cave inaccessible to daily life, hints at purposes beyond the merely practical or decorative. The cave itself adds to the mystery. Its narrow passageways, uneven floors, and hidden chambers suggest that the artists intentionally moved into the darkness to paint, working with firelight and echoing chambers that would have transformed the visual experience. The acoustics of the cave may have amplified sound, perhaps enhancing ritual or spiritual practices. Why venture so far underground for these depictions? Was it a sacred act, an initiation, or a form of communication with ancestors or spirits? And why did certain animals dominate the imagery while others are conspicuously absent? Speculative theories deepen the enigma. Some researchers propose that the paintings encode astronomical or calendrical knowledge, with sequences of animals representing seasonal cycles or celestial phenomena. Others suggest shamanistic interpretations, where human figures and hybrid forms reflect trance visions, spiritual journeys, or encounters with otherworldly beings. Fringe ideas even hint at knowledge or symbolic systems lost to time, suggesting that the caves served as repositories of abstract thought, philosophical insight, or proto-writing, waiting for modern eyes to decipher their meanings. Technically, the creation of these artworks is itself remarkable. Artists used brushes, fingers, and even blowing techniques to apply pigments with precision. They scaled walls, contorted into awkward positions, and layered imagery to create depth and movement. Each stroke demonstrates not only manual skill, but also a profound understanding of form, anatomy, and the interaction of light and shadow in confined spaces. These are not casual doodles. They are deliberate, planned, and executed with purpose, inviting viewers to consider the mind behind the hand. As the torchlight, or our imagination, illuminates the vaulted chambers, the animals seem to move in the flickering shadows. There is a palpable sense of presence, as if the cave itself preserves the energy of the people who once lived, hunted, and created here. Lascaux is not just a gallery. It is a bridge across tens of thousands of years, connecting modern observers with thoughts, beliefs, and artistry that are both familiar and alien. And yet, despite decades of study, fundamental questions remain. What messages, stories, or knowledge were encoded in these images? Were they intended to be seen by others, or were they private acts of devotion, reflection, or magic? How much of prehistoric life, culture, and cognition remains hidden behind these painted walls, awaiting discovery or interpretation? In the silent chambers of Lascaux, the paintings endure as both evidence and enigma, inviting us to ponder the depths of human imagination. They remind us that even tens of thousands of years ago, our ancestors were capable of extraordinary creativity, of seeing beyond the tangible world and leaving traces of thought and spirit that still challenge and inspire us today. From the shadowed chambers of Lascaux, where prehistoric hands etched animals into stone with uncanny life, we now travel across continents and centuries to the fertile plains of Sichuan, China, where an entirely different kind of human expression emerges, one that is simultaneously mesmerizing and profoundly mysterious. Here lie the Sanxingdui masks, bronze masterpieces that defy easy explanation and continue to challenge our understanding of ancient civilization. Discovered in the 1980s in the ancient city of Sanxingdui, these masks date back roughly 3,000 to 3,500 years, belonging to a previously unknown culture that flourished during the Shang and early Zhou periods. Unlike the serene and naturalistic depictions of Lascaux, the Sanxingdui masks are monumental, abstract, and otherworldly. Eyes protrude dramatically, noses stretch into impossibly long forms, and mouths are carved wide in expressions that are at once awe-inspiring and unsettling. Some masks measure over half a meter in height, crafted from bronze with a level of sophistication and scale that suggests highly advanced metallurgical skill. The mask's purpose remains enigmatic. Archaeologists propose they were used in religious rituals, perhaps representing deities, ancestral spirits, or mythological beings. Excavations revealed that many were deliberately broken before burial, a practice that raises profound questions about the beliefs and ceremonies of this culture. Were the masks killed to release their power? Were they offerings to gods, or tools for a ritual that demanded destruction as a sacred act? And why do so many of them depict exaggerated or abstract features rather than naturalistic human forms? The technology behind their creation is equally mysterious. Casting such large bronze objects with consistent thickness and detail would have required sophisticated techniques, including high-temperature furnaces, precise molds, and coordinated labor. Yet this culture left no written records that have survived, and until the Sanxingdui discoveries, there was no indication of a civilization in this region with the capability or scale of craftsmanship displayed. How did they achieve such technical mastery in isolation, and what knowledge might have been lost when the culture disappeared? Speculative theories abound, attempting to explain both the masks and the civilization that produced them. Some suggest that the figures represent extraterrestrial or supernatural beings, inspired by the masks' exaggerated eyes and features that seem to transcend human proportions. Others propose that the masks encode a symbolic language or a complex cosmology, with each feature, angle, and shape carrying meaning now lost to time. Could these objects have been designed to channel spiritual energy, to convey authority, or to communicate a worldview so alien to us that only abstract, larger-than-life forms could embody it? The context of the mask's discovery adds to the intrigue. Thousands of artifacts were found in pits, including bronzes, jade, gold, and pottery, carefully placed and often intentionally broken. The sheer quantity and deliberate burial suggest a society capable of organized, large-scale ritual, yet one whose sudden disappearance leaves more questions than answers. Environmental changes, invasions, or internal collapse may have played a role, but the lack of historical records ensures that much of this culture's story remains tantalizingly out of reach. Standing before these masks in imagination, one is struck by their haunting presence. The exaggerated eyes seem to follow, watching centuries later, silently witnessing the passage of time. They are reminders of a civilization that thrived, created, and disappeared, leaving only fragments of artistry that speak more in questions than in answers. The sheer strangeness of the forms, combined with the technical achievement required to produce them, challenges our assumptions about what ancient humans could conceive and accomplish. And so, the Sanxingdui masks endure as both art and enigma. They invite reflection not only on the culture that made them, but on the broader story of human ingenuity, ritual, and imagination. What ideas, beliefs, or experiences drove these artisans to craft figures so alien, yet so intensely human in their expressiveness? How much of the Sanxingdui civilization's knowledge, mythology, or spirituality lies buried, waiting for the sands of time to reveal it? In the silent halls of imagination, these masks continue to watch, questioning our understanding and quietly challenging us to wonder at the mysteries they guard. From the haunting masks of Sanxingdui, where bronze eyes seem to pierce across millennia, we now travel to the rolling hills and granite outcrops of southeastern Africa, where a sprawling city of stone rises from the savanna, the enigmatic Great Zimbabwe ruins. Here, the remains of walls, towers, and enclosures speak of a civilization whose grandeur continues to captivate and confound historians and travelers alike. Great Zimbabwe is not a single monument, but a complex of stone structures spread over nearly 722 hectares, with walls constructed from massive granite blocks fitted together without mortar. The most iconic of these, the Great Enclosure, features towering curved walls that soar over 5 meters high, enclosing courtyards and passages whose purpose remains partially speculative. Towering conical structures, often called Zimbabwe Towers, rise within the enclosure, their precise function still debated. The craftsmanship is remarkable. Stones are carefully shaped and stacked in alternating patterns, creating stability that has endured for centuries despite the passage of time and the elements. Archaeological evidence dates the city's occupation primarily between the 11th and 15th centuries CE, suggesting it served as the political and economic heart of a powerful African kingdom. Excavations have uncovered trade goods from as far afield as China, Persia, and India, including glass beads, porcelain, and gold. These discoveries testify to Great Zimbabwe's role as a hub in a vast trading network, yet many aspects of the society that built it remain shrouded in mystery. How did a civilization in this region achieve such architectural sophistication and organize labor on this scale without leaving extensive written records? The purpose of the structures also invites speculation. The Great Enclosure may have been a royal or ceremonial center, perhaps housing kings, priests, or elite citizens, while the hill complex suggests earlier habitation and possible defensive use. Yet the absence of clear inscriptions, combined with the monumental scale, gives the site a quality that seems almost symbolic. Walls and towers that rise without mortar, imposing yet enigmatic, as if designed to convey power, prestige, or spiritual authority. What beliefs or social structures motivated the builders to raise stone so meticulously and laboriously? Speculative theories abound. Some have suggested that the ruins are evidence of lost civilizations or foreign influences, though mainstream archaeology attributes the city to local Shona-speaking peoples. Others propose symbolic or cosmological interpretations, noting the alignment of walls, the centrality of certain spaces, or the repetition of circular motifs as hints of ritual or spiritual planning. Could the structures reflect a worldview in which architecture itself was a form of communication, linking rulers, citizens, and the cosmos in a tangible, enduring form? The ruins' location and construction add further intrigue. Stones were quarried from nearby hills and transported across uneven terrain, then carefully shaped and placed, a feat of both engineering and human organization. How many hands over how many years contributed to the creation of Great Zimbabwe? What social, political, or religious mechanisms guided such large-scale labor? And why, after centuries of prominence, was the city ultimately abandoned, leaving walls and courtyards to slowly merge with the landscape? Standing among the ruins today, the scale and precision evoke a sense of awe. The walls curve and climb, enclosing space with a quiet authority that speaks of ambition, ingenuity, and permanence. Yet there is also a whisper of absence. The people who constructed these massive edifices, who organized trade across continents and shaped lives within these stone enclosures, have left no direct account of their thoughts, fears, or triumphs. Great Zimbabwe endures as both monument and mystery, inviting reflection on the reach of human capability and the fragility of historical memory. How much of this civilization's knowledge, culture, and purpose remains hidden among the stones, buried beneath centuries of earth and imagination? And as we trace the contours of the walls, pass through the silent courtyards, and contemplate the towers rising above the African plain, we are left with the enduring question: what other secrets of human history, like Great Zimbabwe itself, wait patiently to be uncovered, quietly challenging our understanding of the past? From the stone enclosures of Great Zimbabwe, where walls rise with quiet authority across the African plains, we now turn our gaze to the arid cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea, where another form of human ingenuity and mystery has endured for millennia: the enigmatic copper scroll. Unlike the fragile parchment or papyrus manuscripts discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, this artifact is engraved on metal, a testament to both its durability and the deliberate care taken to preserve its contents. The copper scroll was discovered in 1952 in Cave 3 at Qumran, hidden among a collection of ancient manuscripts that had lain undisturbed for centuries. Composed of thin sheets of copper rolled into a scroll approximately 2.4 meters in length, it stands apart from its contemporaries. While other scrolls contain religious texts or commentary, the copper scroll reads like an inventory, a list of treasures, hidden caches of gold, silver, and precious artifacts buried across the Judean wilderness. The letters, etched with painstaking precision, remain remarkably clear, resisting corrosion despite the passage of nearly 2,000 years. Scholars date the scroll to roughly the 1st century CE, though the exact context of its creation is debated. The text meticulously details hundreds of locations where riches were allegedly concealed, specifying distances, landmarks, and measurements. Yet the descriptions are cryptic, and many references are now unrecognizable in the modern landscape. Mainstream archaeologists suggest it may have been a record of temple treasures or wealth hidden during times of unrest, possibly associated with the Jewish sect known as the Essenes, or with broader resistance to Roman rule. Yet the very existence of such a document, preserved in copper rather than paper or parchment, invites deeper questions about intent. Why take such extraordinary measures to ensure that this record would endure, yet remain incomprehensible to all but a select few? The copper scroll also presents practical enigmas. Despite extensive searches over decades, none of the treasure it describes has been definitively located. Some suggest that the described caches were moved, looted, or perhaps never existed as recorded. Could the scroll itself have been a symbolic text, a coded allegory for spiritual or social wealth, rather than literal caches of material goods? The cryptic nature of the text, combined with the impossibility of confirming its contents, transforms the scroll into both guide and puzzle, a map whose destination may exist only in imagination. Speculative theories abound, further deepening the mystery. Some posit that the scroll is a key to understanding lost knowledge or secret practices of ancient Jewish sects, possibly hinting at rituals or wisdom hidden from history. Others suggest that it could point to treasures of immeasurable historical significance, perhaps linked to the Second Temple or sacred artifacts now vanished. Fringe interpretations sometimes even propose extraterrestrial involvement or advanced technologies used to hide and record these treasures, inspired by the scroll's resilience and meticulous detailing. While such ideas remain unproven, they underscore the way the artifact transcends conventional explanation, compelling observers to consider possibilities that blend history, symbolism, and imagination. The scroll's very materiality, etched in copper, suggests a deliberate choice to ensure permanence, as if its creators understood the fragility of parchment and sought to preserve knowledge against the erosion of time. Yet, even in this permanence, there is ambiguity. The locations it describes are often vague, relying on terrain features that may have shifted or vanished entirely. Does this indicate a coded language, a ritualistic intent, or merely the practical limitations of describing a landscape in antiquity? As the sun dips behind the cliffs of Qumran, casting long shadows over the Dead Sea, one can almost imagine the hands that inscribe the scroll, the careful strokes of metal upon copper, and the minds weighing each word with precision. The scroll endures as a silent witness, a bridge between the known and the unknown, between recorded history and hidden secrets. And so, the copper scroll remains both tantalizing and elusive. How much of its promised treasure exists, material, symbolic, or otherwise, and how much has been lost to time, war, or human ambition? What might it reveal about the culture, beliefs, and priorities of the people who created it? As we contemplate this extraordinary artifact, we are left with the enduring question: what other secrets, buried both literally and metaphorically in the sands and caves of history, remain hidden, waiting for discovery, or for interpretation beyond the reach of certainty? From the windswept cliffs of Qumran, where the copper scroll lies as a silent testament to hidden knowledge and lost wealth, we now journey to the sprawling plains of the Indus Valley, where the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro emerge from the sands like a ghostly city frozen in time. Here lies a civilization that flourished over 4,000 years ago, whose sudden decline and unusual traces of destruction continue to fascinate and perplex archaeologists and historians alike. Mohenjo-Daro, one of the principal cities of the Indus Valley civilization, was remarkable for its urban planning and architectural sophistication. Grid-like streets intersect at precise right angles. Public baths and granaries suggest advanced civic organization, and brick structures rise with remarkable uniformity. The city reflects careful attention to drainage, sanitation, and public health, evidence of a society capable of coordinating large-scale projects and envisioning a functional urban landscape far ahead of its time. Yet, amid this apparent order, lies a lingering mystery. Excavations have revealed skeletons, some burned, scattered across the ruins, as if the inhabitants perished suddenly and violently. Walls of brick are charred in places, and certain layers of the city show signs of extreme heat that seem inconsistent with conventional fires. While most mainstream explanations cite invasion, natural disaster, or economic decline as reasons for the city's abandonment, the intensity and concentration of heat damage in some areas remain difficult to reconcile with these theories. What could have caused such sudden destruction in a city otherwise characterized by meticulous planning and stability? This has led some to propose what is sometimes referred to as the Mohenjo-Daro nuclear mystery. The suggestion is not that nuclear weapons, as we understand them, existed in ancient times, but that the patterns of heat and vitrification found in the ruins resemble the aftermath of extreme thermal events, akin to modern atomic blasts. Certain stones appear fused, some pottery is melted, and the soil exhibits anomalies that hint at extraordinarily high temperatures. Could this be evidence of a natural phenomenon? Perhaps a rare meteor strike or an underground fire? Or does it suggest some form of ancient technology or catastrophe now lost to history? Speculative theories extend further. Fringe interpretations posit that the Indus Valley civilization may have possessed knowledge of energy sources or destructive forces beyond what we typically attribute to Bronze Age societies. Some researchers suggest that these traces of intense heat were the result of ritual destruction, experimentation, or accidental catastrophe. Others propose that the city's sudden collapse may have been influenced by environmental changes amplified by human activity, yet the precise combination of factors remains elusive. The absence of written explanations, beyond the undeciphered Indus script, ensures that much of this civilization's knowledge and reasoning is forever obscured. Despite the mysteries, Mohenjo-Daro speaks loudly of human achievement. Streets laid out with geometric precision, multi-story dwellings, and sophisticated water management demonstrate an understanding of urban design that would not be matched in many parts of the world for millennia. The city's rise and sudden fall highlight both the ingenuity and vulnerability of early civilizations, leaving behind artifacts that are at once familiar and profoundly alien. Seals depicting unknown deities, standardized weights, and symbolic inscriptions whose meaning remains undeciphered. Walking or imagining walking among the ruins, one can sense the echoes of life abruptly interrupted. Was this an ordinary day turned extraordinary by catastrophe? What did the inhabitants witness as fires raged or heat scorched their homes? And how did a city so advanced vanish so completely, leaving behind only stone, charred remnants, and unanswered questions? Mohenjo-Daro endures as a puzzle carved in brick and clay. The combination of extraordinary urban planning, sudden destruction, and unexplained traces of extreme heat challenges conventional narratives of history. What exactly befell this city, and what knowledge did its people possess that is now lost to the centuries? As we peer across its silent streets and scorched ruins, the mystery remains, inviting us to wonder not only about the fate of Mohenjo-Daro, but also about the limits of human ingenuity and the secrets that history continues to conceal, patiently waiting for discovery. From the charred streets of Mohenjo-Daro, where bricks whisper of sudden catastrophe and lost knowledge, we now cross the Aegean Sea to the sunlit island of Crete, home to the ancient Minoans, whose palaces and frescoes speak of a society both sophisticated and enigmatic. Hidden among the ruins of the palace of Phaistos, a small, unassuming clay disk rests quietly, its surface etched with symbols that continue to baffle historians, linguists, and archaeologists alike. The Phaistos disk. Unearthed in 1908 by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier, the disk measures just 15 centimeters in diameter, yet it is extraordinary in both craftsmanship and mystery. Its surface is stamped with over 200 symbols arranged in a continuous spiral, curling inward from the edge toward the center. The symbols depict human figures, animals, plants, tools, and abstract shapes, each pressed with remarkable precision. This technique, individual stamps pressed into clay before firing, suggests the use of movable type, a concept that would not reappear for millennia. Even the spiral itself seems deliberate, an intentional rhythm that draws the eye inward, as if guiding the observer along a narrative or ritual journey. The Minoan civilization, flourishing around 1700 BCE, is known for its palatial complexes, advanced trade networks, and intricate artistry, yet the Phaistos disk is singular. No other artifact from this civilization bears symbols identical to those stamped into its clay. Scholars have struggled to classify it. Is it a form of writing, a mnemonic device, a religious talisman, or even a coded message? Unlike the linear A and linear B scripts used elsewhere in Crete, the disk's symbols appear wholly unique, suggesting either a previously unknown writing system or a purpose beyond conventional communication. Mainstream interpretations often propose that the disk may have been a liturgical object or an inventory of sorts, perhaps cataloging deities, offerings, or sacred sites. Yet the spiral layout and repetition of certain symbols hint at a more complex function, one that may have combined ritual, information, and artistry. Could it have been a calendrical tool, a guide for ceremonies, or a record of mythic narratives now lost to time? The absence of corroborating texts leaves these questions unresolved, forcing us to grapple with the tension between human ingenuity and historical silence. The disk also presents technical enigmas. The uniformity and clarity of the impressions suggest careful planning and an advanced understanding of materials and design. The choice of clay, the firing process, and the meticulous stamping all point to a civilization capable of precision and foresight. Why, then, does such sophistication exist on a single, isolated object? Why was it buried, seemingly forgotten, rather than reproduced or integrated into broader Minoan record-keeping? Speculative theories abound, some grounded in archaeology, others in imagination. Some suggest the disk may encode astronomical or calendrical knowledge, mapping seasons, lunar cycles, or agricultural rhythms essential to Minoan society. Others see in it a spiritual or ritualistic purpose, a conduit between the human and divine. Fringe interpretations go further, proposing that the disk represents a form of proto-writing or symbolic thought so advanced that modern researchers struggle to interpret it, hinting at an intellectual leap lost to the centuries. As we study the disk today, it is easy to be drawn into the rhythm of its spiral, the repetition of its symbols, and the subtle intricacy of its design. Each mark seems deliberate, imbued with meaning, yet silent about its purpose. The disk is a compact enigma, a puzzle frozen in clay, demanding contemplation rather than immediate understanding. The Phaistos disk endures as a bridge between the known and the unknown, a reminder of human creativity and the limits of our knowledge. What messages, knowledge, or beliefs are encoded within its spiral? How much of Minoan thought, ritual, or artistry has been lost, leaving only fragments like this disk to hint at a world we can only partially imagine? And as we ponder the mystery it represents, we are left with a profound sense of wonder, an invitation to consider not only what the past reveals, but what it deliberately conceals, patiently waiting for discovery. The air here is thick with the weight of centuries. You stand on a flat, sun-baked plain in the heart of what is now Mexico, where the gentle rustle of leaves in the distance seems almost louder than the footsteps of history itself. Rising from this landscape are immense stone sentinels, silent and imposing, their sheer scale both awe-inspiring and unsettling. These are the Olmec colossal heads, giant basalt faces carved with remarkable precision, each one weighing several tons, each one staring out with eyes that seem to follow, ever watchful. At first glance, the craftsmanship is staggering. The heads, some standing over 10 feet tall, are sculpted with detailed features, broad noses, thick lips, and carefully rendered helmets, which some scholars suggest could signify rulers or elite warriors. The contours of their faces are individualistic, almost as if each head captures a unique personality, a distinct presence frozen in stone. And yet, despite centuries of study, questions linger, beginning with the most fundamental. How were these colossal statues transported across vast distances? The Olmec civilization flourished between roughly 1200 and 400 BCE, predating the more widely known Maya and Aztec cultures. Their centers of power were located near present-day Veracruz and Tabasco, where the terrain is a mixture of rivers, swamps, and rolling hills. Basalt, the volcanic stone from which these heads were carved, is not native to these plains. It was quarried from the Tuxtla Mountains, sometimes miles away. Moving stones weighing tens of tons without wheeled vehicles or draft animals seems almost impossible. Some archaeologists hypothesize the use of wooden rollers, sledges, and manpower in organized caravans, but the scale of such operations strains credulity. Could thousands of laborers have coordinated with such precision, moving each giant stone over rough terrain, without leaving behind clear records? Then there is the question of why. Mainstream scholarship largely agrees that the heads represent rulers, commemorating leaders and serving as political or spiritual symbols. The detail in the facial features suggests that they were portraits, possibly capturing individual kings' likenesses in stone. But why did the Olmecs dedicate so much effort to these monuments? What spiritual or political purpose demanded that these colossal figures be carved with such labor-intensive precision? And why, after centuries, do the heads remain so stoically enigmatic, devoid of inscriptions or definitive context? The mystery deepens when we examine the artistic sophistication. The Olmecs were adept in many forms of art. Jade figurines, intricately patterned ceramics, and ritualistic objects. Yet the heads surpass anything else known from the same period in terms of scale and technical ambition. The sheer logistics of carving, transporting, and erecting these monuments suggest not only exceptional skill, but also a level of social organization and resource allocation that is difficult to reconcile with what we know of early Mesoamerican societies. Were the Olmecs guided by techniques now lost to history? Did they possess knowledge of leverage, engineering, and planning that has no parallel in their contemporaries? Some have speculated more provocatively. The uncanny realism of the faces, combined with the massive scale and unexplained methods of transportation, has led to conjecture that the Olmecs might have had contact with civilizations far beyond their own, or that they inherited knowledge from an unknown source. A few even suggest that these statues could serve as markers or symbols of celestial alignment, their positions intentionally chosen for astronomical or ritualistic significance. While such ideas are far from universally accepted, they underscore a deeper truth. The heads are not merely artistic achievements, they are enduring puzzles. Even the individual features of each head invite speculation. Some faces appear to carry expressions of serenity, others of resolve or defiance. Could these subtleties reflect the personalities or achievements of the rulers they represent? Or were they symbolic, meant to communicate power, authority, or even divine connection to the people of the time? And what of the helmets? Were they protective gear for warriors, ceremonial attire, or a stylistic convention now lost to our understanding? The absence of explanatory text leaves us only with questions, our imagination filling in the spaces that history has left blank. Standing before them today, one cannot help but feel the weight of the unknown. Centuries of wind, rain, and human presence have shaped these heads, yet they endure, silent witnesses to a civilization that remains partially veiled in shadow. Every chisel mark and every curve seems deliberate, yet their full meaning eludes us. We are left to wonder about the hands that carved them, the minds that planned them, and the society that revered them. Perhaps the true mystery is not merely how the Olmecs carved and moved these colossal heads, but why their legacy continues to grip our imagination so profoundly. What did these faces mean to the people who made them? What secrets might they still hold, buried in plain sight, waiting for discovery? As we leave the stone giants behind, the questions linger, echoing across the centuries. How did the Olmecs achieve this monumental feat? And what untold stories remain locked within these silent faces? On the windswept cliffs of Easter Island, where the Pacific stretches endlessly into the horizon, the landscape is both serene and haunting. Here, amidst towering stone statues that watch silently over the island, there lies another kind of mystery, far quieter but no less enigmatic. It is carved not in stone, but etched meticulously into wooden tablets, lines of glyphs and symbols that defy translation, a language lost to time. This is Rongorongo, the undeciphered script of Rapa Nui, a puzzle that continues to baffle scholars, linguists, and historians alike. The tablets themselves are unassuming at first glance. Made from the wood of the native Toromiro tree, they are weathered, darkened by centuries, and often cracked along their length. Yet when you look closer, a meticulous order emerges. The symbols are composed of stylized human figures, animals, plants, and abstract geometric shapes. They are arranged in neat, flowing lines, read in a boustrophédon manner, alternating directions in a way that seems both deliberate and elegant. The craftsmanship is exquisite, suggesting that the people of Rapa Nui approached writing with reverence, precision, and purpose. But what did these symbols mean? And why, when the islanders had such a rich oral history, did they feel compelled to carve these messages into wood? The origins of Rongorongo are as mysterious as the symbols themselves. The first European visitors arrived in the 18th century, and by that time, much of the island's culture had already suffered devastating disruption from disease and foreign contact. Oral traditions survived, but any living memory of how to read the glyphs had been lost. The script may have been invented independently on the island, or it may have been inspired by contact with other cultures. There is no definitive evidence, no Rosetta Stone to guide modern scholars. And yet, the tablets themselves persist, fragile relics hinting at knowledge that has vanished almost completely. Linguists and cryptographers have pored over Rongorongo for more than a century. Some patterns suggest the script may record genealogies, rituals, or calendrical information. Attempts to link it to the Rapa Nui language or to other Polynesian scripts have yielded tantalizing fragments, but no comprehensive translation has ever been achieved. The text seems to hold meaning, yet the key remains elusive, locked away in a code that may have depended on now forgotten cultural or ritual context. How could a society produce such a sophisticated system only to have it slip entirely from memory within a few generations? The tablets themselves have stories of survival that are almost as compelling as the script they carry. Many were taken by European collectors, some were burned, and others decayed in the island's humid climate. A few survive in museums around the world, their inscriptions still readable but their significance opaque. Scholars debate their purpose. Were they purely ceremonial? Were they practical records, sacred knowledge, or mnemonic devices for oral storytelling? And why, if literacy was so vital, was it confined to these few wooden objects rather than widespread in everyday life? The intrigue of Rongorongo deepens when one considers its possible connections to the island's other mysteries. Easter Island is famous for its colossal moai statues, carved from volcanic stone and transported across great distances. Some researchers speculate that the script and the statues are linked, that the glyphs may contain records of the island's rulers, construction projects, or religious practices. Others have proposed even more speculative theories. Could the script encode astronomical observations, or perhaps secret knowledge of agricultural techniques critical for survival on a remote island? While these ideas remain unproven, they highlight the profound gap between what we see on the tablets and what we can understand. The symbols themselves are striking in their variety and complexity. Some depict humans with exaggerated features, seemingly engaged in activity. Others are intricate abstract patterns that challenge conventional interpretation. There is a rhythm to the writing, a sense that it conveys narrative, movement, and meaning all at once. Yet every attempt to decipher the patterns has yielded only partial insights. Could it be that the script is not a conventional language at all, but a system of sacred signs, a ceremonial cipher meant to be read only by the initiated? Or is it a lost form of phonetic writing, containing knowledge that no one alive today is equipped to unlock? Even as modern technology allows us to analyze the tablets in unprecedented detail through high-resolution scanning, pattern recognition, and computational linguistics, the essence of Rongorongo remains stubbornly inaccessible. Each new analysis uncovers more complexity, more patterns, yet no breakthrough has produced a definitive translation. The more we look, the more we realize how little we truly know. Standing before a tablet, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of humility. The carvings are silent, yet they speak across centuries, calling out for understanding. They remind us that human knowledge is fragile, that even the most sophisticated systems can vanish, leaving only tantalizing traces. Rongorongo endures as both artifact and enigma, a whisper of a civilization's intellectual and spiritual life. And as we trace the carved lines with our eyes, we are left with the same haunting question that has persisted for generations. What knowledge did the people of Rapa Nui inscribe on these wooden tablets, and how much of it remains hidden from us forever? The sun dips low over the arid plains of southern Egypt, casting elongated shadows across a landscape that has remained largely untouched for millennia. Here, in the harsh beauty of the Nubian desert, lies Nabta Playa, a vast open basin that at first glance seems no more than an ordinary desert expanse. Yet, scattered across the sands are the remnants of a civilization that existed thousands of years before the Great Pyramids of Giza, leaving behind stones arranged in formations that continue to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike. Stepping closer, one notices the careful alignment of these stones. Circles, megalithic arrangements, and enigmatic rows stretch across the flat landscape. Some stones are placed with deliberate precision, their orientations corresponding with the rising and setting of celestial bodies. The largest of these constructions, a circular arrangement often referred to as the calendar circle, hints at a profound understanding of the cosmos, an understanding that seems incongruous for people living in what would otherwise be considered a pre-agricultural society. The earliest estimates suggest that Nabta Playa was inhabited as far back as 7,500 BCE, long before the dynastic civilizations of the Nile had taken shape. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of seasonal settlements, including shallow huts, hearths, and the remnants of domesticated cattle. This was not merely a place where people passed through. It was a site of ritual, of community, of deep cultural significance. And yet, why did these early inhabitants go to such extraordinary lengths to construct these stone circles in the heart of a desert that even today seems inhospitable? The mainstream explanation leans on astronomy. Many researchers propose that the stone circles at Nabta Playa functioned as an ancient calendar, helping early pastoralists track the annual movements of the sun, the stars, and the seasons. Alignments with the summer solstice suggest a sophisticated awareness of celestial cycles, a method of predicting the annual flooding of the Nile, or determining the optimal times for planting and grazing. From this perspective, Nabta Playa is a testament to human ingenuity, an early example of observational astronomy applied with practical purpose. Yet, as precise as these alignments appear, they also raise questions. The largest stones, carefully positioned over 100 feet apart, would have required not only planning but also tools and knowledge that some argue were remarkably advanced for a culture otherwise assumed to be at a Neolithic level. How did they measure the angles? How did they transport the stones? And why invest such immense effort in constructions whose use, if it was purely astronomical, might have been achievable with simpler methods? Some researchers have suggested that Nabta Playa might have served a dual purpose. Beyond its possible calendrical function, it may have been a sacred site, a ceremonial center where rituals connected to the heavens and the earth were performed. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of large gatherings, fire pits, offerings, and burial sites suggesting that this was a place of communal significance. Here, in the vast openness of the desert, the boundary between the terrestrial and the celestial seems to blur. The patterns of the stones hint at a people who sought to understand not only the cycles of nature, but perhaps the cycles of life itself. The intrigue deepens with the possibility of astronomical alignments that extend far beyond the solar year. Certain formations appear to correspond with the positions of specific stars, such as Sirius and Orion, which would have been visible in the southern Egyptian sky thousands of years ago. These stellar alignments echo the same celestial patterns observed later in the great monuments of Giza, raising the tantalizing question: could knowledge from Nabta Playa have influenced or even predated the astronomical understanding of the Old Kingdom? And yet, despite decades of study, much about Nabta Playa remains frustratingly elusive. Some theories wander into more speculative territory. Could these megaliths reflect a form of knowledge lost to history, an advanced understanding of astronomy or mathematics that surpasses what we typically attribute to Neolithic peoples? Some fringe hypotheses even suggest that the site was a marker, or a kind of beacon, aligned not just to the stars, but to cosmic events we are only beginning to understand. While there is no concrete evidence to support such claims, the precision and scale of the constructions invite the imagination to wander. Adding to the mystery are the burials found nearby, some containing remarkably preserved skeletal remains. Analysis indicates that these individuals were tall, robust, and may have engaged in diets and lifestyles distinct from other populations in the region. Could these people have been part of a unique cultural lineage, now vanished, whose knowledge and traditions left only these silent stone testimonies in the desert sands? As night falls over Nabta Playa, the desert becomes an expanse of shadow and starlight. The stone circles, quiet yet imposing, cast long, ghostly outlines across the sand, pointing toward constellations that have shifted only slightly in 10,000 years. One cannot help but wonder what these ancient builders saw when they looked up at the night sky. Did they glimpse patterns, cycles, or secrets of the cosmos that remain hidden to us today? Or were their intentions entirely practical, their genius expressed in ways that we, separated by millennia, can only attempt to decipher? The stones of Nabta Playa do not speak. They do not explain why they were placed with such care, nor do they reveal the full extent of the knowledge possessed by those who erected them. They remain in the quiet desert as both monument and question, a testament to human curiosity, to ritual, and to the desire to reach beyond the known. And as we trace their outlines with our eyes, we are left with the same sense of wonder that has inspired generations of explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers. The mystery endures, and with it, the silent invitation to imagine what else might lie hidden in the sands of time. High in the arid valleys of southern Peru, beneath a sun that beats relentlessly upon the desert floor, lies a landscape that has fascinated humans for centuries. The Nazca region is famous for its immense geoglyphs, lines and figures etched into the earth so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. But beyond these enigmatic markings, another mystery has emerged, hidden from plain sight and whispered in hushed tones among researchers: the so-called alien mummies of Nazca. The first sight of these remains is at once unsettling and mesmerizing. Small, elongated skulls protrude from fragile wrappings, tapering sharply at the crown. Some skeletons appear to have only 3 fingers on each hand, limbs that seem unusually slender, and proportions that deviate from any known human anatomy. The skin, desiccated yet surprisingly preserved, retains the muted ochres and browns of the desert, as if the dry air itself has acted as a guardian over millennia. One cannot help but feel the weight of a silent story, frozen in time yet radiating an uncanny sense of life. Initial reports of these mummies came from private collections and obscure expeditions, sparking immediate controversy. Conventional archaeologists approached them with caution, noting that many of the skeletons had been removed from the ground without rigorous documentation. Yet what caught the attention of both skeptics and believers alike was their anatomy. These were not ordinary human remains. The elongated skulls and unusual digits challenged long-held assumptions about human morphology in the region. Could they be evidence of an unknown branch of humanity, or something entirely different? Scientific investigations have since attempted to ground the mystery in more conventional explanations. carbon dating, where available, suggests that the mummies are between 1,000 and 1,700 years old, placing them within the Nazca culture, known for its sophisticated ceramics, textiles, and water engineering. Some researchers argue that the unusual skull shapes could result from intentional cranial deformation, a practice well documented among several ancient South American cultures. Binding an infant's head with cloth or wooden boards could elongate the skull as it grew, a mark of status, beauty, or spiritual belief. Similarly, what appear to be extra fingers or toes could be cases of congenital deformities or skeletal anomalies exaggerated by preservation. Yet even within these explanations, questions remain. Cranial deformation typically does not produce the pronounced tapering and thinness observed in these skulls. The limbs, seemingly too long and delicate for normal human anatomy, defy easy categorization. DNA studies conducted on some specimens indicate human mitochondrial sequences, but the full interpretation of these results remains incomplete, leaving room for uncertainty. Could there have been a hybridization event, a genetic anomaly within an isolated population, or simply a phenomenon yet to be fully understood? Beyond biology, the cultural context deepens the intrigue. The Nazca people were masterful artisans, capable of abstract thought and complex ritual practices. Their geoglyphs, depicting animals, plants, and geometric shapes, suggest a worldview that bridged the earthly and the divine. In this light, could the unusual appearance of these mummies reflect a symbolic or spiritual intent? Were they deliberately altered or presented in this form to represent something beyond the ordinary human experience, a ritualized embodiment of myth, ancestry, or celestial belief? Speculative theories have proliferated, drawing the attention of UFO enthusiasts, fringe researchers, and curious minds worldwide. Some propose that these mummies are evidence of extraterrestrial visitors, beings whose biology does not conform to terrestrial norms. Photographs of the skeletal structures, with their angular skulls and narrow torsos, fuel imaginations of intelligent life from distant worlds interacting with ancient civilizations. While mainstream science remains skeptical, these ideas persist in part because the evidence is visually compelling and enigmatic, leaving more questions than answers. Adding to the mystery are the circumstances under which these mummies were discovered. Many were found in remote areas, far from established Nazca settlements, sometimes buried in shallow graves or tucked within cave recesses. The isolation of these sites, combined with the careful preservation of the remains, hints at deliberate intent. Were these individuals revered, feared, or even hidden to protect them? And if so, from whom or what? The desert keeps its secrets well, and with each passing century, the context of these burials fades further into obscurity. The more one examines the Nazca mummies, the more apparent it becomes that we are confronted with a complex puzzle, part anthropology, part archaeology, and part enigma. Are they the remains of humans who lived on the margins of a civilization, deliberately modified to fulfill cultural or ritual roles? Or do they represent something entirely outside our current understanding of human history? Every scientific test seems to answer one question while opening 10 more, leaving researchers and observers in a delicate balance between reason and wonder. As the sun sets over the Peruvian desert, the elongated shadows of the mummies stretch across their display cases or sandy tombs, silent witnesses to an ancient story we can only begin to imagine. In the quiet stillness, one feels the tension between known and unknown, between rigorous science and the allure of mystery. The Nazca mummies, whether human, symbolic, or something else entirely, stand as a reminder of how much remains hidden from our grasp. How history often keeps its most extraordinary chapters buried beneath layers of sand, time, and unanswered questions. And so we are left with the same haunting thought that has captured the imagination of so many. In a land where the earth itself is inscribed with messages from the past, what other secrets might lie just beyond the veil, waiting for someone curious enough, and perhaps patient enough, to discover them? Deep in the humid lowlands of Costa Rica, where the rainforest hums with the subtle rhythm of life, there exists a landscape that seems at first ordinary: dense vegetation, tangled roots, and the occasional clearing where sunlight dances across the forest floor. Yet, in these clearings, a strange and striking sight emerges. Enormous stone spheres, perfectly round and impossibly smooth, resting silently on the earth as if placed by unseen hands. Their presence is at once majestic and disquieting, an enigma that has confounded researchers for decades. Some of these spheres are small enough to cradle in one's arms, while others soar beyond 2 meters in diameter, weighing several tons. Carved from gabbro, a hard, igneous rock, their surfaces bear no signs of chisel marks or modern machinery. Yet their symmetry is startling, a flawless geometry that hints at an extraordinary skill, or perhaps knowledge lost to time. How were such massive stones shaped with such precision, and with what tools? The rainforest itself seems to cradle these silent sentinels, overgrown with moss and vines, their original context obscured by centuries of encroaching jungle. The earliest documented accounts of these spheres come from the 1930s, when workers clearing the land for banana plantations stumbled across them. Archaeologists soon began studying the sites, noting that the spheres are scattered across the Dikis Delta and other regions in the southern part of the country, often grouped in clusters, aligned along axes, or positioned near ancient settlements. Many spheres appear to form deliberate arrangements, suggesting that they were not simply decorative or randomly placed, but may have served as markers, ceremonial objects, or instruments of social or political significance. Mainstream archaeology frames the spheres within the context of the pre-Columbian Dikis culture, which thrived between 500 CE and 1500 CE. From this perspective, the stones were symbols of power, status, or cosmological meaning, expressions of a sophisticated society whose artistic and ritual sensibilities extended even to monumental stonework. Indeed, the Diki were known to be skilled craftsmen, capable of intricate goldwork, pottery, and wood carving. In this light, the spheres are a natural extension of their artistry, a reflection of a culture attuned to both symbolism and spectacle. Yet, the craftsmanship of these spheres continues to baffle even seasoned researchers. Some are perfectly spherical to within mere centimeters, a level of precision that is difficult to achieve even with modern tools. Transporting them, some weighing over 15 tons, from quarries to their current resting places, adds another layer of mystery. How did the Diki, without wheels or draft animals, move these enormous stones across dense jungle terrain? Rope, manpower, and ingenious engineering are possible explanations, yet the methods remain largely speculative, lost to history. The placement of the spheres adds yet another element of intrigue. Many seem to be aligned with celestial bodies or geographical features. Certain clusters correspond with solstices or equinoxes, suggesting an awareness of astronomical cycles. Could these arrangements have functioned as a type of calendar, guiding agricultural activity or ceremonial timing? Or perhaps they marked sacred spaces, sites of ritual or social gathering, their significance encoded in stone, awaiting interpretation across the centuries. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest that the spheres were constructed with knowledge passed down from an even older, unknown civilization, one whose technological sophistication surpassed what we attribute to the Diki. Others propose more imaginative ideas, that the spheres served as navigational markers, or even as repositories of energy, a concept rooted in the symbolic reverence for geometry and symmetry. While these notions cannot be verified, they underscore the magnetic pull of the spheres, the way they inspire curiosity, wonder, and a sense of the uncanny. Adding to the mystery is the context in which they are found. Many spheres were discovered buried, their surfaces partially hidden beneath centuries of soil and debris, hinting at intentional placement or even ritual burial. Some were located near other archaeological features, plazas, burial sites, or ceremonial platforms. Could each sphere have held a specific meaning, assigned to a particular lineage or function within the community? And if so, what messages or beliefs have been lost to time, leaving only these enigmatic stones as their silent testimony? The sphere's endurance through centuries of climate, conquest, and neglect is remarkable. Many remain untouched, their smooth surfaces reflecting sunlight like dark mirrors in the rainforest understory. Others have been moved, damaged, or removed entirely, yet even fractured, they maintain an air of mystery. Their geometric perfection, coupled with the sheer physical effort required to create and position them, speaks to human ambition and ingenuity, but also to questions that persist. How much of their story has vanished beneath the soil, the jungle, and the passage of time? Walking among the spheres today, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of connection to the past. There is an elegance to their simplicity, yet an unsettling precision that seems almost unnatural. They invite contemplation, encouraging us to imagine the hands that carved them, the intentions that guided their placement, and the culture that revered them. And as shadows lengthen and the rainforest comes alive with the sounds of evening, the spheres remain, silent and immovable, guarding secrets that may never be fully understood. Perhaps the most enduring mystery is not how the spheres were made, but why. Why did a culture invest so much effort, knowledge, and symbolism into these monumental stones? What messages were they meant to convey? Were they practical, ceremonial, or symbolic? Or do they hint at something larger, a forgotten chapter of human history? A whisper from ancestors whose understanding of the world exceeded what we can easily grasp today. The giant spheres of Costa Rica, resting quietly amid the dense greenery, resist easy answers. They are at once human and mysterious, familiar yet otherworldly. And as we stand in the dappled light of the rainforest, gazing upon their smooth, dark surfaces, we are reminded that history often preserves its most extraordinary secrets in stone, waiting for those patient enough to wonder and brave enough to imagine what still lies hidden. Beneath the cerulean waters off the southern coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, a vast submerged structure emerges, its edges catching shafts of sunlight that filter through the ocean. From above, the ocean appears tranquil, unremarkable. Yet as divers descend, the seascape transforms. Massive terraces, sharp angular edges, and broad flat plains stretch beneath them, forming a complex that seems almost architectural in design. This is the Yonaguni Monument, a formation that has puzzled scientists, historians, and explorers for decades, blurring the boundary between natural geology and possible human construction. At first glance, the monument could be mistaken for a natural undersea plateau, the product of erosion and tectonic activity over millennia. Yet the more one studies the terraces, the more the pattern of the formations suggests intentionality. Right angles, flat surfaces, steps rising in orderly succession, and channels carved into the rock appear too precise, too deliberate, to be entirely natural. Some terraces stretch for tens of meters, and enormous blocks seem almost as if they were quarried and moved into place, aligned with an order that defies casual coincidence. How could such precise forms emerge under the sea without human intervention? The Yonaguni Monument was brought to global attention in 1985 by diver and researcher Masaaki Kimura. Kimura described the formations as a potential remnant of an ancient civilization, possibly dating back over 10,000 years. If this is true, The implications are staggering. This would predate known organized civilizations in the region, challenging our understanding of prehistoric human history. Mainstream archaeologists, however, remain cautious, pointing to the region's natural geology. The area is composed primarily of sandstone and mudstone, which can fracture along planar lines, producing shapes that mimic man-made terraces and platforms. Tectonic pressures and the slow erosion of ocean currents could, in theory, explain the monument's striking features. Yet even within this natural explanation, the mystery persists. Some formations resemble steps, stairways, or pyramidal shapes, leading divers to question whether erosion alone could create such repeated geometric patterns. One particularly striking feature, often referred to as the stage, appears as a large, flat platform surrounded by precise vertical edges, almost as if it were deliberately carved for ceremonial purposes. There are channels and grooves that could have served as pathways, and depressions that some suggest may have been used for water management or ritualistic functions. The repetition and scale of these features invite speculation. Could they truly be a product of chance, or does an unknown hand lie behind their creation? Further deepening the mystery are the so-called pyramidal formations, which some researchers interpret as deliberate terracing rising toward a central peak. The steps are remarkably regular, their dimensions consistent over significant distances. Even small features, niches, protrusions, and channels appear in repeated symmetrical patterns. Some divers claim to sense an almost architectural logic to the site, as though it had been designed for human use, yet submerged due to rising sea levels after the last ice age. Could it be that what now lies underwater was once an above-sea-level city, slowly claimed by the ocean over thousands of years? The dating of the monument adds yet another layer of intrigue. Geological studies suggest that the formation may have been above water between 10,000 and 5,000 years ago, during a period when sea levels were lower. If humans did indeed carve or modify the structure, it would imply an advanced level of organization and engineering long before civilizations like Mesopotamia or the Indus Valley had established cities. How would a prehistoric society have achieved such monumental work without the tools, technology, or societal infrastructure typically required for such undertakings? Speculative theories extend even further. Some suggest that the site could be a remnant of a lost civilization, possibly a sunken city with connections to myths of Atlantis. Others propose that it may have served ceremonial or astronomical purposes, aligned in ways we have yet to fully understand. While these ideas cannot be confirmed, the visual impact of the monument, its sharp terraces, precise angles, and geometric harmony, has inspired generations of divers, historians, and dreamers to consider possibilities beyond conventional archaeology. Adding to the enigma are the countless smaller features surrounding the main structures. Boulders that appear carefully shaped, channels that suggest drainage or transport, and isolated blocks that seem deliberately positioned. Are these the result of natural fracture patterns, or remnants of human construction? Even if natural forces played a role, could humans have recognized the potential of these formations, modifying them to create something intentionally structured, blending nature and culture in a way we are only beginning to comprehend? As divers float over the monument today, the play of sunlight across terraces and steps creates an otherworldly scene, the shadows shifting with the water's motion. Fish dart among the angular formations, and tiny air bubbles rise to the surface, carrying the echoes of time upward. There is a profound sense of stillness here, a quiet witness to millennia of change, the slow dance of earth, water, and possibly human hands. The Yonaguni Monument resists easy explanation. It sits in that delicate space between natural wonder and human ingenuity, a submerged puzzle that challenges our assumptions about history, geology, and the capacity of ancient societies. Was it shaped entirely by natural forces? Or was it once a thriving human settlement now lost to the ocean? Could it be evidence of a civilization that predates anything we currently know, or simply a remarkable coincidence of nature's design? And as the ocean currents ripple gently over its terraces, the monument remains silent and unmoving, inviting us to wonder. In the quiet, shadowed depths, one realizes that the Yonaguni Monument is not only a question of what is beneath the sea, but also a reflection of the limits of our knowledge, and a reminder that history may still hold chapters we have yet to read. What other mysteries might lie hidden beneath the waves, waiting for patient eyes and brave hearts to discover them? In a quiet corner of the Baghdad Museum, among artifacts that span millennia, lies a small cylinder seal, unassuming at first glance, yet enigmatic in its significance. Measuring only a few centimeters in length, it is a delicate object, carved with intricate designs that seem almost impossibly precise for its size. The cylinder itself is made from a smooth, dark stone, its surface engraved with tiny figures in meticulous relief. When rolled across clay, it produces an impression that reveals scenes and symbols, an ancient signature, a story, or perhaps a message, long forgotten but preserved through time. This is the Baghdad Seal Cylinder, an object whose origins and implications have puzzled historians and researchers for decades. Dated to approximately 5000 BCE, it predates most civilizations credited with writing and complex symbolism. The engravings depict forms that some scholars argue resemble not only humans and animals, but strange objects and devices whose function remains obscure. Tiny lines converge in ways that suggest movement or mechanism, and certain symbols appear to depict devices that some have compared to tools or even flying objects, though interpretations vary widely. Mainstream archaeology approaches the cylinder with caution, framing it within the known context of Sumerian culture. Cylinder seals were common throughout Mesopotamia, used to stamp ownership, mark transactions, or protect documents. They were a sophisticated form of communication, blending artistry with utility. From this perspective, the Baghdad seal cylinder is simply another example of human ingenuity, a tool of administration and identity, a testament to a culture that valued precision, symbolism, and the written word. Yet, even within this conventional explanation, questions emerge. The complexity of the imagery is unusual for its era, suggesting knowledge or observation beyond the everyday life of a Neolithic society. Some researchers have noted that certain symbols appear to depict objects that do not easily align with known technology or natural forms from that period. Are these artistic abstractions, ritualistic symbols, or could they represent something more literal? And if literal, what was being observed or imagined so many millennia ago? The cylinder's discovery in Baghdad adds another layer of intrigue. Found in layers of soil associated with early settlements, its context is partially lost to time, leaving only the artifact itself to speak. Without comprehensive records of its excavation, questions about its original use, the people who created it, and the ideas it conveyed remain unresolved. Was it a personal seal, a ceremonial object, or a symbolic representation of knowledge that we no longer possess? Speculative interpretations have flourished in modern times. Some suggest that the images hint at advanced technology observed or imagined by ancient peoples, devices that could fly or structures that defy conventional explanations. Others propose more symbolic interpretations, arguing that the shapes represent cosmological or spiritual concepts encoded in miniature form. While mainstream scholars remain cautious, the intrigue persists precisely because the engravings resist easy explanation. The more closely one studies them, the more the cylinder seems to straddle the boundary between ordinary human craft and something far more mysterious. Beyond its carvings, the cylinder itself invites reflection. Its craftsmanship is meticulous, each line and curve deliberate, executed with tools that required skill and patience. for an object so small to convey such complexity, raises questions about the minds that conceived it. How did the artisans translate ideas into this compact medium? What inspired the depictions, and what stories, rituals, or knowledge did they encode in its form? Holding the Baghdad seal cylinder, one cannot help but feel the weight of time and human curiosity. It is an artifact both ordinary and extraordinary, a small piece of clay that has survived thousands of years, yet still manages to provoke wonder. Was it simply a practical tool, or a miniature repository of knowledge? Did it carry warnings, instructions, or visions from a civilization that understood far more than we assume? The true mystery of the cylinder lies not just in its imagery, but in the questions it leaves unanswered. It invites us to consider the lives, thoughts, and imagination of people who lived in an era we can barely comprehend. What other knowledge or secrets might have been lost, buried beneath centuries of earth and forgotten history? And in the silence of the Baghdad Museum, as the light falls across its small engraved surface, the cylinder seems to whisper its enduring riddle, that even the smallest objects may hold the grandest mysteries, and that human curiosity stretches far beyond the limits of time. In the dry, sun-baked expanse of the Mojave Desert in California, where the horizon shimmers in the heat and the silence is almost tangible, a discovery was made that would puzzle both geologists and historians alike. In 1961, 3 rock collectors, Virginia Maxey, Wallace Lane, and Mike Mikesell, were combing the desert for geodes, the rounded stones filled with crystals that glimmer when cracked open. Among the usual specimens, one ordinary-looking rock drew their attention. At first it appeared unremarkable, a small nodule of clay and mineral deposits. But when they cracked it open with a hammer, the interior revealed something utterly unexpected. A metal object embedded within, surrounded by crystalline formations that had grown around it over time. This object became known as the Koso artifact, a curious and perplexing find. Inside the geode-like rock was a small, elongated cylinder, roughly the size of a spark plug, its metallic surface covered in corrosion, yet clearly manufactured. More astonishing, the object seemed to possess precise engineering features. A central core, possibly ceramic or some insulating material, encased in metal with fine filaments radiating outward in a pattern reminiscent of electrical components. To those who examined it, the artifact seemed to straddle the line between ancient craft and modern technology, a contradiction that defied easy explanation. At first, experts assumed the object must be recent, a modern spark plug accidentally encased in mineral deposits. But further investigation raised questions. The geological context suggested that the surrounding concretion could not have formed overnight. Scientists estimated, based on mineral growth and the formation of surrounding crystals, that the object might have been embedded for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. How could a technological device resembling a spark plug designed for 20th century engines have existed in a context seemingly so ancient? Mainstream explanations attempted to resolve the mystery with familiar frameworks. Some claimed it was a modern spark plug accidentally encased in natural mineral deposits, its ancient appearance the result of rapid concretion caused by unusual desert chemistry. Others suggested it could have been a hoax, a manufactured object deliberately buried to confuse collectors. These interpretations are plausible, yet they do not fully account for certain details: the unusual shape of the surrounding concretion, the precise alignment of the internal filaments, or the sense that the artifact does not neatly correspond to any known spark plug model. Further intrigue comes from the artifact itself. Its construction appears remarkably sophisticated for a device supposedly embedded in the ground for centuries. The core is meticulously insulated, and the radial filaments, now encrusted with mineral deposits, hint at functionality. Could this have been an electrical device? Or is it a coincidence, an object created for some mundane purpose that simply resembles modern technology? The very design challenges assumptions about the timeline of technological development, forcing observers to question whether humanity, or someone else, may have experimented with tools and devices far earlier than recorded history allows. Speculative interpretations abound. Some researchers suggest that the Koso artifact could be evidence of an out-of-place technological object, hinting at knowledge or civilizations lost to time. Could it be that advanced technology existed millennia before its supposed invention? Could the artifact represent remnants of a forgotten culture whose engineering prowess exceeded what we typically attribute to prehistoric peoples? While such ideas are not confirmed, the artifact's mysterious combination of mineral concretion and precise construction invites these questions with an almost hypnotic insistence. The artifact's surroundings deepen the enigma. The Mojave Desert is not known for hosting advanced civilizations in antiquity. It is a harsh, arid landscape where only small, scattered groups of hunter-gatherers are documented to have lived. How could an object of such technological complexity have ended up here? Was it transported from elsewhere, lost, or perhaps part of an unknown experimental culture whose traces have vanished without a trace? The desert, with its shifting sands and relentless sun, guards its secrets well, erasing footprints and artifacts alike over centuries. Adding to the mystery are the countless similar anomalies reported in the region and beyond. Objects whose age, composition, or function seems incongruous with their context. The Koso artifact stands among these anomalies as both emblematic and confounding. Its small size belies its profound implications. A single, seemingly simple device can provoke questions that stretch across history, technology, and the limits of human knowledge. When one examines the artifact closely, a sense of wonder emerges. The filaments, delicate yet resilient, suggest intentionality, a purpose whose precise nature may never be fully known. The mineralized exterior, grown over the embedded object through a slow and inexorable process, acts as both protector and puzzle, preserving it while simultaneously obscuring its origins. There is a tension here between visibility and concealment, between what is understood and what remains elusive, a tension that defines the artifact's enduring fascination. In contemplating the Koso artifact, one is drawn into a quiet, reflective state. What does it mean for our understanding of human history if objects like this exist, tiny, out-of-place items that challenge timelines, that hint at knowledge lost or civilizations unrecorded? Could the artifact have been created by an ancient culture whose ingenuity rivaled our own, or does it point to something even more extraordinary, something outside conventional history entirely? The desert itself seems to amplify the mystery. The vast expanse of sand, the heat rising in rippling waves, the endless horizon. These elements create a backdrop that feels both timeless and infinite. The artifact, small and metallic, appears almost fragile against the immense scale of the Mojave, yet it carries the weight of centuries of unanswered questions. It is a reminder that even in the most familiar or inhospitable landscapes, the past can surprise us, leaving traces that demand contemplation, curiosity, and humility. The Koso artifact remains quietly enigmatic, a testament to human curiosity and the limits of our understanding. Its presence challenges assumptions, invites speculation, and insists upon attention. As we consider its origins, purpose, and implications, one is left with a lingering question. What other objects, buried or hidden, await discovery in the deserts and wildernesses of the world? Artifacts that may redefine what we believe about history, technology, and the ingenuity of those who came before us? In the silence of the Mojave, the artifact continues to provoke thought. A small but powerful reminder that the world often holds more mysteries than answers, and that some questions may endure far longer than we can imagine.